so full of You have no reason to convict me. You're full of
She will likely be exhumed tomorrow at some point, and after that a pathologist, a specialist doctor, will perform a post-mortem. They're very skilled at establishing people's causes of death. Understand that? Did you kill Grace Millane? Okay. Jesse Kempson, you're under arrest for the murder of Grace Millane.
Tonight with a public appeal for missing British backpacker Grace Millane. A short time ago, police held a press conference to appeal for sightings of the 22-year-old who has not been seen since 7:15 p.m. on Saturday night.
Hey guys, welcome to Crime Delvi. My name is Luca. Before we begin, I have two short announcements that I need your support with. Currently, the algorithm is limiting video visibility to only those who have subscribed. To get the episodes back on the homepage, the most effective way is for you to like and leave a comment below this video. That small action will help the algorithm recognize and spread the content to more people in the community. If you're new, please subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss any new true crime documentary episodes. And leave a comment letting me know which city you're watching this video from. Now, let's get started.
Grace Millane was born on December 2nd, 1996, in Essex, in southeast England. She grew up in the town of Wickford, in the district of Basildon, in a close and loving family. Grace was the youngest child of David Millane and Gillian Millane, and the younger sister of two older brothers. People who knew her often described her as friendly, independent, and eager to explore, while always staying in touch with her family. She was someone who regularly sent photos, sent messages, and let her parents and her two older brothers know that she was still safe in a place very far from home. Grace studied at the University of Lincoln in the city of Lincoln, in eastern England. In 2018, she graduated with a bachelor's degree in advertising and marketing. And like many young people just stepping out of college, Grace didn't want her life to immediately shrink down into an office, meeting schedules, work emails, and deadlines everyone calls urgent, as if the world is going to collapse if the PowerPoint font is not changed in time. She wanted to go. Not to disappear, but to live bigger. In October 2018, Grace left home to begin a long post-graduation trip. Before arriving in New Zealand, she had traveled through South America, shared photos from her journey in Peru, met new friends, and kept doing what her family was used to, updating them on where she was, what she was seeing, and how she was living. For Grace, traveling alone did not mean cutting off contact. It meant expanding her world while still keeping that thread connected back home. And that is why, later on, when Grace's phone went silent on her 22nd birthday, her family could not see it as normal, because some people disappear off the radar for a few days, then come back with a, "Sorry, my phone died." Grace was not that kind of person. Grace also had a very specific, very everyday kind of kindness. On November 20th, 2018, Grace arrived in New Zealand. She spent her first few days traveling around the northern part of the North Island, stopping at places like Cape Reinga and the Bay of Islands, before arriving in Auckland in late November. There, she checked into Base Backpackers on Queen Street, a busy hostel full of backpackers, suitcases rolling through the hallways, and strangers starting conversations with one very simple question. On Saturday night, December 1st, 2018, Grace left Base Backpackers on Queen Street just before 5:45 p.m. She was wearing a black, knee-length dress, white shoes, and carrying a small handbag. And she walked into central Auckland like any 21-year-old woman traveling alone might do on a weekend. Meet someone new, have a few drinks, talk for a while, and then go back to the hostel. At least, that was how this night was supposed to go. At first, Grace did not seem completely sure about meeting this man. But after talking a little more, the two decided to meet for drinks. Grace did not walk into that date as someone who ignored every warning sign. She did exactly what society always tells women to do when they date: talk first, meet in a public place, and stay in contact with friends. In other words, she followed the process. The problem is, the perpetrator does not need you to mess up the process. Grace met that man at Sky City, an entertainment complex in central Auckland with bars, restaurants, and a casino. Bright lights, people constantly passing by, security cameras everywhere. This is the kind of place that makes people feel safer, because there are too many people around for something bad to happen. It sounds logical. And what is incredibly frustrating is that real life does not always care about our logic. The man introduced himself as a manager in the oil and gas industry. He said he lived in a hotel. For someone traveling alone, those details created a very clear image: mature, stable, with a good job, familiar with the city, and not the kind of person you would need to worry about. A good dating app profile. Too good. And if you have ever seen someone on a dating app describe themselves as an entrepreneur, investor, executive, or building my own empire, then you get it. Just after 9:30 p.m., Grace and Jesse left the Bluestone room. They walked down the street arm in arm. The next day was Sunday, December 2nd, 2018. Grace's 22nd birthday. Grace's phone should have been lighting up with birthday messages from family, friends, and people back in England, more than 11,000 miles away, still trying to pull her a little closer with a few small lines of text on a screen. Grace should have replied, maybe sending back a photo from Auckland, a joke, an emoji, or simply, "I'm okay. I'm having a good day." But there was nothing. Both of Grace's phones went straight to voicemail. And I want you to pay attention to what her family must have felt in that moment, because this is the kind of alarm that outsiders do not always understand right away. For some people, not answering messages for a few hours can just mean a dead battery, falling asleep, or being somewhere with bad service. Her brother, Declan, said Grace had been constantly sending details and photos throughout the trip. She shared her journey. She stayed in touch. According to Declan, Grace suddenly disappearing from every family conversation was completely unlike her. This was not the kind of person who closed an app and forgot the whole outside world. And honestly, we can blame social media for that, but we cannot use it to explain this. Grace was very close to her family. That did not mean she did not like exploring or traveling. In fact, Grace was on the round-the-world trip she had been looking forward to for a long time. But no matter how far she went, she still kept the habit of staying in contact with her loved ones. She regularly texted, sent photos, and told her family where she was and what she was doing. So when Grace suddenly went completely silent, it no longer felt like normal busyness. It was something that made her family feel that something was wrong. By December 5th, Grace's parents contacted Auckland police and reported her missing. According to media timelines, Grace was reported missing by her family after she failed to respond to birthday messages sent on December 2nd.
But we begin tonight with a public appeal for missing British backpacker Grace Millane. A short time ago, police held a press conference to appeal for sightings of the 22-year-old who has not been seen since 7:15 p.m. on Saturday night.
She was last seen on the 1st of December, that was Saturday.
At first, police did not suspect foul play. And honestly, this is the frustrating but very real part of many adult missing person cases. Grace was an adult, backpacking, staying in a hostel, and meeting a lot of new people. Maybe she had stayed with a friend. Maybe her phone had died. Maybe she had changed her plans. It sounded reasonable until it stopped sounding reasonable. Most of Grace's belongings were still at the hostel. Her family had not received any response. And the people who knew Grace best all knew one thing. She could travel very far from home, but she would never leave her whole family guessing whether she was still safe. At that point, police were still treating this as a missing person case. But for Grace's family, the nightmare had already begun. Fortunately for the detectives, Auckland is a city with a lot of cameras. And cameras, pretty convenient for justice, do not know how to lie.
Police investigation today has concentrated around her movements and activities in Auckland since she's arrived in New Zealand. A large part of that focus has been around CCTV footage throughout Auckland.
It did not take long for police to retrace the places Grace had gone on Saturday night. From the city centre to Sky City, then the Blue Stone Room, each frame began to piece together a very clear route. Grace had not randomly disappeared from the city. She had been with a man. That man was quickly identified. Jesse Kempson. He was living at the City Life Hotel in Auckland, the same place Grace was seen entering on her final night.
The police investigation today has concentrated around her movements and activities in Auckland since she's arrived in New Zealand. A large part of that focus has been around CCTV footage throughout Auckland. She's been staying at a backpackers in the Auckland CBD, and we're asking anybody who has been in contact with her, who's seen her or knows her, to contact police. Our last confirmed sighting was on Saturday the 1st of December at around 7:15 p.m. near Sky City. At the time, she was wearing a black dress with some white, possibly Converse shoes. So if anybody has seen her, please contact the police. We're dealing with her family. Obviously they're on the other side of the world and they're distraught. So we're having to give them support and give them as much information as we can about our investigation.
Do you suspect foul play?
Look, the longer this goes on, the more concerning it is. At the moment, we don't have any evidence of foul play, but we're keeping an open mind. All we know is that we have her on CCTV footage at 7:15 p.m. on Saturday night. From where she went there, we don't know, but obviously that's part of our ongoing investigation. The photo in the dress here is taken at Sky City on Saturday night, 7:15. So that's what she was last seen wearing.
Did she return to her hostel that night?
But we don't know, and we're making those inquiries.
Are her belongings still there?
Some of her belongings were there, yes.
And what belongings? Are her passport, money?
I'm not at liberty to go into what was and wasn't there because we don't know what's missing, if anything is missing.
Have you spoken to those who may have been with her that night?
We've spoken to a number of people at the backpackers because she was in a room where there was at least 4 people staying. Oh, look, it's important if people think that they've seen Grace, that they contact us. I know a lot of those will be unconfirmed sightings, but it's important that we know because it could fit into a jigsaw puzzle and that could be one piece of the jigsaw.
According to public timelines, CCTV showed Grace with this man in central Auckland and later at the City Life Hotel, before she was no longer seen leaving the building. And then there was a very strange detail on Facebook. On the very night Grace was last seen, she changed her profile picture. Under that photo, there was a comment, "Beautiful, very radiant." The person who wrote that comment? Jesse. But who was Jesse Kempson, really? Jesse was 26 at the time and was born in Wellington. His childhood was unstable. After his parents divorced, Jesse moved several times, was partly raised by his grandparents, and gradually became distant from many people in his own family. The important thing to say here is this: a fractured childhood does not turn someone into a criminal. Plenty of people grow up through brokenness and still choose to live decently. But with Jesse, people who had known him started to recognize a pattern of behavior repeated over years. A pattern that later became impossible to separate from the story of who he was. He lied. Not the small kind of lie you tell to get out of a coffee date. He lied like he was building an entire house out of paper, then acting surprised when it rained. Jesse once claimed he was related to a famous All Blacks player. He once told other people he was dying of cancer. He lied to landlords, employers, friends, girlfriends, and even his own family. Every time Jesse's fake world was exposed, it collapsed. Then he built a new one, a new job, a new identity, a new story. And sure, that may sound like a sad little bragger, the kind of guy who could make LinkedIn request a leave of absence from burnout. But in this case, those lies were no longer harmless showing off. They became tools. A former landlord of Jesse's said he once claimed he was a professional softball player who had been signed to New Zealand's national Black Sox team. Sounds very impressive, very athletic, very, I'm about to have money. The money just hasn't come in yet. And that was exactly the story Jesse sold to the landlord. He was waiting for his contract money. But after 8 weeks of hearing one excuse after another, the landlord finally called the Black Sox management directly. Not exactly a shock. They had no idea who Jesse was. Once again, his fake world collapsed. But for Jesse, being exposed did not mean stopping. It just meant changing the script. At the City Life Hotel, he told the landlord he was a senior manager at Woolworths. In reality, his rent was being paid through government assistance. Jesse's most recent job was in telemarketing, and that job also ended with him being fired over his lies. And here is the point I want you to hold on to. All of this was not buried in some distant past. It was happening right around the time he met Grace. On December 1st, 2018, Jesse did not walk into that date as a man with a stable life. He walked in with an identity cracking at every corner. No real money, no real job, no real story, but still enough confidence to sit across from Grace and say he was an oil and gas manager. That's right. A man who had just been chased down by his own lies still chose another lie as his opening move with the last woman seen with him. And for police, that turned Jesse from a name on Tinder into someone who could fill in the most important gaps from the night Grace disappeared.
Tell us about Grace.
So I was talking to Grace on Tinder.
Yeah.
We'd matched on Friday. I saw that we'd matched the next day on Saturday. And then we met at Sky City. And then we decided that we were going up to Andy's Burger Bar, which is on the first floor.
Whose idea was it to go to that particular burger place?
Me, because I didn't initially know that she was real.
What do you mean?
Well, there's a lot of... So have you heard of catfish?
No.
So catfishing is where someone uses your profile or uses your photos and pretends to be you and then meets... and you're a completely different person.
How does meeting in a public place sort of protect you from meeting someone who's not as good looking as...
Well, there's security there. So if she wasn't who she said she was, at least in my mind I'd feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's us.
Down there?
Yep. So she's going that way and I'm going across the street. I go down Queen Street. I go down Victoria Street, straight down to the bottom, and then hang a left, and I head towards the viaduct.
You've kind of walked in a bit of a funny direction if you were planning to go to the viaduct. Is there a particular reason you were going to do that?
I feel safer down that way.
And we're very, very concerned for her safety, obviously. It's entirely possible that she's been the victim of foul play.
Okay.
You understand what that means?
Yeah.
What would your feelings be about providing us with a voluntary DNA sample in the event that we can compare that against something? Would you be happy with that?
100%. I mean, I know I haven't done anything wrong, so I'm happy to do it.
Okay. At this stage, we don't know what's happened to this girl.
Okay.
It's possible that somebody has killed her. Okay.
Okay.
You understand that?
Yeah.
She might, when I say foul play, I mean that someone might have murdered her. Don't know if she's been murdered or not yet. She may be alive and well.
Okay.
But she might also be dead.
Okay.
Okay? And it could be that you've done it.
Hey, I just want to ask a question. Am I being arrested for something I didn't do?
You haven't been arrested, mate.
I was like, holy shit.
When Jesse spoke to police, he said nothing unusual had happened that night. According to his version, the date with Grace ended very casually. A hug, a kiss on the cheek, and then they agreed to meet again the next day before going their separate ways around 10 p.m. A neat ending. Too neat. He also said he tried to message Grace on Tinder the next day, but found that she had unmatched him. And according to Jesse, that was where their story ended. Very convenient. The kind of convenient where, if a statement could tie a bow on itself, it would probably pick red just to look more believable. Pay attention. Jesse was trying to place the end of his role right out on the street. In his story, Grace was fine when she left. He was just a Tinder guy who got ghosted, a little sad, a little awkward, but innocent. The problem was that the officers had not finished reviewing all the CCTV from City Life yet, and cameras, as usual, do not care who wants to look innocent. Reports on the case noted that Kempson told investigators he and Grace had parted ways after the date, but CCTV later showed Grace entering the City Life hotel with him, where she was not seen leaving. So while Jesse was telling a very clean version of that night, investigators were starting to get the one thing every liar hates most. Nearly 6 terabytes of CCTV data were brought in for analysis, and frame by frame, the footage began doing something Jesse definitely did not like, telling the story of that night without asking his permission. Jesse said he and Grace had gone their separate ways out on the street. The cameras said no. CCTV showed Grace and Jesse walking arm in arm to the City Life Hotel. They stepped out of the elevator together on Jesse's floor, and after that, Grace was never seen leaving the building. Not in a single frame, not once. By the next morning, Grace's 22nd birthday, cameras captured Jesse leaving the hotel. From there, the footage began following him through each stop. He bought a suitcase, then bought cleaning products, and just before noon, took a taxi to a rental car company and rented a red Toyota Corolla. This no longer looked like someone who had just been ghosted after a Tinder date. This looked like someone dealing with the aftermath. And if Jesse's first statement was a room cleaned up to look spotless, then the CCTV was walking in with muddy shoes and saying, "No, we're going to look at this from the beginning." Trial reports noted that the jury was shown CCTV of the defendant buying a suitcase, buying cleaning supplies, renting a car, and driving away in the rental car after the night Grace disappeared. This is where the investigation changed pace. It was no longer just, where did Grace go? It became, why did the last man seen with her need a suitcase, cleaning supplies, and a rental car on the very morning of her birthday? A few hours later, while Grace's family still had no idea what had happened, Jesse went on to do something almost unbelievable. He met another woman on Tinder. That's right, another woman. And I know the question that immediately pops into your head is, Wait, if he had just had a normal date last night, why was he acting so strangely today? The short answer? Because last night's date was not normal at all. According to what this woman later said, Jessie made comments that unsettled her, about burial, about having a friend who was a police officer, and other remarks that were off enough for her to decide not to get into his car. No arguing, no trying to be more polite, no convincing herself that maybe I'm overthinking it. She refused. She walked home by herself, and she never spoke to him again. Sometimes, survival instinct does not need legal evidence. It only needs a very clear feeling in your gut. Get out of here. After that meeting, Jessie returned to the city center. By around 9:30 p.m., cameras recorded Jessie pushing 2 suitcases on a hotel luggage cart, then loading them into the red Toyota Corolla he had rented earlier. One day after Grace's birthday, at around 7 a.m., Jessie appeared on camera again. This time, he was buying a shovel. 2 hours later, he used a high-pressure hose to wash the rental car. After that, he returned the car to the rental company, and that car was quickly rented out to someone else. By December 5th, the same day Grace was reported missing, Jessie was again caught on camera going to different locations and throwing items into trash bins. Police went to the City Life Hotel to find Jessie and speak with him in person. And just as they arrived at the front desk, Jessie also returned to the hotel. A very small moment, but a very telling one. The moment he saw the police, Jessie immediately turned around and started walking away, his head turned completely in the other direction, as if he did not see the police, then the police would not see him either. A brilliant strategy. If you are a preschooler hiding behind a curtain, police, of course, spotted him. They quickly chased after him, stopped him, and took Jessie in for questioning.
We actually don't know if she's been murdered or not yet. She may be alive and well, but she might also be dead. Okay? And it could be that you've done it.
Hey, I just want to ask a question. Have I been arrested for something I didn't do?
You haven't been arrested, mate.
Oh.
No.
Oh. I was like, holy shit.
At this point, Jessie still denied everything. According to him, the date with Grace ended normally. Nothing serious. Nothing that needed any further explanation. He was just the last man who went out for drinks with her. And then, after that, they each went their own way. By December 7th, Grace's father, David Millane, had arrived in Auckland. During the press conference, David tried to stay calm.
I'm David Millane, Grace's dad.
Just take Thomas for
Thank you for coming today. As you know, Grace has been missing for several days. We last had contact with her on Saturday the 1st of December. And as a family, we've been extremely concerned for her welfare. Grace is a lovely, outgoing, fun-loving, family-orientated daughter. Grace has never been out of contact for this amount of time. She's usually in daily contact with either her mother, myself, her 2 brothers, members of the family on social media. She arrived here on the 20th of November and has been bombarding us with numerous photographs and messages of her adventures. We are all extremely upset, and it's very difficult at this time to fully describe the range of emotions we are going through.
The investigation was now starting to accelerate. Police still had not publicly named Jessie, but they confirmed they had spoken with a man considered a person of interest. And in a missing person case, that phrase sounds very mild on paper. But anyone who has followed enough of these cases understands police were looking very closely at one person. As more time passed, the fear grew. Grace still had not made contact. She had not returned to the hostel. She had not appeared on any camera after entering city life. Then police announced that they had serious concerns for her safety. By December 8th, as more evidence was added to the timeline, Jesse was finally detained and brought in for another interview. And this time, his story changed direction. So fast, it was dizzying. Before that, Jesse had said the date ended normally. A hug, a kiss on the cheek. The two parted ways out on the street. Grace unmatched him on Tinder. End of story.
Indicated that you're willing to speak to us about the events of last Saturday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me what happened last Saturday.
She started talking to me about 50 Shades of Grey. We started having sex. At first it was just normal. And then she asked me if we could get into bondage, having, I guess, more violent sex. We ended up on the floor. And then she told me to hold her throat. So I went into the shower. And then all I remember is falling asleep in the shower. I need to stop. I need to go.
In the new version, Jesse said he woke up the next morning and found Grace dead. He said he was shocked. He said he panicked. He said he did not know what to do. And then, according to his own words, instead of calling emergency services, calling the police, or calling anyone who could help a person in critical condition, Jesse put Grace in a suitcase, drove away, and tried to bury her. That is a very strange kind of panic. Panic can make people cry.
I didn't know what to do. I went downstairs and I was just, I don't know, I was all over the place.
You come out of the shower.
Yep.
The light's been on in the shower.
Yep.
You put a towel around you.
Yep.
You've turned the light off, and
Yep.
then you've returned to your bed and you've gone to sleep in your bed.
Yep.
And at that point, when you exit the shower, you don't look around, but your assumption from the silence.
I thought that she had gone. I thought she had left.
We're going to head out of here very, very soon, and you're going to take us to where you buried him.
Yeah.
She will likely be exhumed tomorrow.
Okay.
At some point, and after that, a pathologist, a specialist doctor, will perform a post-mortem.
Yeah.
They're very skilled at establishing people's causes of death. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Did you kill Grace Millane? Okay. Jesse Kempson, you're under arrest for the murder of Grace Millane.
The forensic search of Jesse's hotel room began filling in more of the gaps that his statement had tried to avoid. He had cleaned, but not enough. The traces in the room showed there had been an effort to clean up after Grace died. When forensic teams entered Jesse Kempson's room at the City Life Hotel, the naked eye could not see a single drop of blood. The perpetrator believed he had wiped away every trace, but he was wrong. According to the court testimony of ESR scientist Diane Cranfield, when they sprayed the specialized chemical luminol, the floor immediately showed faint blue glowing marks. Between the bed and the wardrobe, 2 large blood-stained areas appeared. The largest area measured up to 27.5 inches in diameter, with patchy circular smear marks, evidence of a desperate attempt to clean. The smaller area measured 12 inches in diameter, forming a perfect circle that matched the shape of the bottom of a mop bucket.
This had a more defined circular shape, and in my opinion, it could have come from the base of a circular object, such as a bucket.
Even more horrifying, the brutality of the case was also embedded deep beneath the carpet. When police lifted the carpet, blood had soaked through both sides of the underlay and pooled on the building's reinforced concrete floor. Forensic expert Turlo Thomas Stone told the jury that DNA test results from the blood samples under the carpet on the refrigerator door, and inside the suitcase all matched Grace Millane.
Around the main circular stain were small spots, such as would occur from a liquid containing blood dripping on the floor. So there was red staining that was blood visible on the underside of the carpet, on both sides of the underlay, and also on the concrete floor in the area of the large and smaller circular probable blood staining.
Jesse's defense team tried to steer the case toward a consensual rough sex accident scenario. But forensic science threw cold water on that lie. The post-mortem results showed no male DNA was found under Grace's fingernails or on her skin. That meant she had no chance to scratch, fight back, or defend herself against the strength of the person strangling her.
There's potentially no male DNA there in the beginning, or any male DNA that may have been there has been lost.
And with Diana Capitas's toxicology report showing that Grace's blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal driving limit, it was clear that the young woman had been completely stripped of her ability to resist on that fateful night.
I cannot be certain that the concentration of alcohol I found in Miss Millane's blood sample was the same as was present in her blood at the time of her death.
And this is when the "I panicked" story started sounding thinner and thinner. Because panic does not usually come with cleaning up the scene. Renting, cleaning equipment, buying a suitcase, renting a car, buying a shovel, and then washing the rental car with a high-pressure hose. Based on what Jesse told police, investigators quickly focused on the Scenic Drive area near the Waitakere Reservoir, west of Auckland. That area was not some random street corner. It was dense bushland, far from the city center, quiet enough for someone to think he could turn evidence into silence. But silence does not last long. Shortly after 4 p.m. on December 9th, police found a body in the bush along Scenic Drive, about 33 feet from the road. New Zealand police confirmed that the area had been identified as a location of interest through the investigation.
The area was identified late last night as a location of interest as a result of our investigative work. I can now advise that a short time ago we located a body which we believe to be Grace. The formal identification process will now take place. However, based on the evidence we have gathered over the past few days, we expect that this is Grace. The focus now is to piece together exactly what happened to a young girl who came to New Zealand on her OE. Obviously, this brings the search for Grace to an end. It is an unbearable time for the Millane family, and our hearts go out to them. Any father, any parent in this situation will struggle. I feel for my other daughter in her 20s. We're putting a lot of support around him. It's difficult because he's here with a brother from England and the rest of the family are back home.
Detective Inspector Scott Beard led this investigation. And throughout the search, he worked very closely with the Millane family. For him and the investigative team, the initial goal was still to find Grace safe, bring her home, and give her family the call any mother or father would pray for. We found your daughter. She is safe. But by the afternoon of December 9th, that moment never came. Not when police do not have enough leads, but when they have enough leads to understand that hope is slowly closing in. We are talking about an investigative team that had to process evidence while also standing very close to the pain of a family waiting for news about their daughter in a foreign country. And for Scott Beard, who had worked directly with Grace's family, this was not just a turning point in the case file. This was the moment he had to face the cruelest part of the job. The truth cannot be softened by any choice of words. News about Grace quickly spread across New Zealand. The grief was no longer only inside the Millane family or inside a press conference room in Auckland. Thousands of people left tributes, brought flowers, lit candles, and attended vigils for her. A young woman came to New Zealand to see the world, to travel, and to send home images from an adventure she had once been so excited about. And then an entire country had to stop and mourn her. After the news about Grace was confirmed, the grief did not stop within the local community. It went straight to the national level. New Zealand's Prime Minister at the time, Jacinda Ardern, publicly apologized to the Millane family.
See, I cannot imagine the grief of her family and what they will be experiencing and feeling right now. And my thoughts and prayers are with her father, David, who is in the country, her mother, Gillian, who cannot be here, and her wider family, friends, and loved ones. And so, on behalf of New Zealand, I want to apologise to Grace's family. Your daughter should have been safe here, and she wasn't, and I'm sorry for that. I've advised the family through the police that if there is anything we can do to assist, we are here to help with that.
After an extensive investigation and the collection of key evidence, Jesse Kempson was officially charged in connection with the tragic death of Grace Millane. On December 10th, 2018, just 5 days after she had been reported missing, he appeared in Auckland court. During the early stages of the proceedings, the court issued an order suppressing his identity to ensure a fair trial, which is why the interrogation footage released to the public was initially blurred. The forensic autopsy later revealed deeply disturbing details. The pathologist confirmed that Grace had sustained strong pressure to her neck for a period lasting between 4 and 5 minutes, a duration long enough to prevent her from being able to defend herself. Multiple bruises were also found on her arms and chest, indicating that she had been restrained while struggling. Toxicology reports showed that Grace's blood alcohol level was 106 milligrams per 100 milliliters, significantly higher than the legal driving limit in New Zealand. Around 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, while Grace lay motionless in the hotel room, Jesse remained there and began behaving in ways that were difficult to comprehend. Phone data revealed that he conducted several bizarre online searches using phrases such as hottest fire, birds of prey, and Waitakere Ranges, the very area where he would later take the suitcase to hide the evidence. He also accessed an inappropriate website and took several private photos of Grace's body. These actions led investigators to believe that Jesse was not only attempting to conceal his wrongdoing, but also displaying a chilling lack of empathy. Just over a month later, when Grace's body was returned to her hometown in England, hundreds of people attended her funeral at the Brentwood Church in Essex. A somber silence filled the small village as mourners placed white flowers and lit candles in her memory. Detective Scott Beard, who had led the investigation, also flew to England to attend Grace's final farewell and personally offer his deepest condolences to the Millane family, a gesture that showed this case was not just the sorrow of one family, but a wound shared between two nations. 6 days after Grace was laid to rest in her hometown, Jesse Kempson appeared before the High Court of New Zealand, where he entered a plea of not guilty. By November 2019, the trial officially began and lasted for 3 weeks. Throughout the proceedings, Jesse maintained a cold, emotionless expression, occasionally lowering his head to look at documents or holding his head in silence. His defense team attempted to persuade the jury that this was an unintended incident, arguing that Grace's death resulted from a consensual, intimate act that went too far, leading to a tragic accident. They claimed that Jesse panicked upon realizing the consequences and, out of fear, tried only to conceal what had happened, rather than intentionally cause harm. However, this argument quickly sparked public outrage, as it was seen as a way of blaming the victim, an attempt to disguise a deliberate act as an accident to justify Jesse's actions.
The defence case is that this is not a murder. And that's still what I say to you now. Nothing has changed. It was an accidental death that took place in the context of sexual activities that if done incorrectly by inexperienced and/or intoxicated people can go wrong.
And if we only listen to the part the defense wanted us to hear, it is almost packaged like a terrible accident. 2 consenting adults, alcohol involved, a lack of experience, and then a dangerous act spinning out of control. But the problem is, this case did not just have a hotel room and a convenient explanation afterward. It had an entire timeline, a very uncomfortable timeline. Because if this was only an accident, why did Jesse lie to police and say Grace had left? If he only panicked, why did he not call emergency services? Why clean the room? Why buy a suitcase, rent a car, buy a shovel, wash the car, search Waitakere on his phone, and then bury Grace's body in the bush? This is where the defense's story started eating its own tail. But the prosecution did not walk into the courtroom empty-handed. They had CCTV. They had phone data. They had internet search history. They had forensic evidence. They had witnesses. They had the suitcase, the rental car, the shovel, the carpet cleaner, the traces in the hotel room, and an entire chain of lies Jesse had left behind himself. As if he were trying to build a maze and forgot that he was standing inside it too. The prosecution argued very directly. Jesse did not panic. This was not rough sex gone wrong. This was not an accident where everything spiraled out of control afterward. According to them, Jesse was calm, callous, and deliberate in hiding Grace's body, destroying evidence, creating a false story, and then trying to pull the jury into what prosecutors called a labyrinth of storytelling and lies.
In this case, to have killed Grace Millane, the defendant, gentleman over here at the back, behind me, had to have had her under his grip, suffocating her, strangling her is probably the correct term, for a total of 5 to 10 minutes, at some point of which she lost consciousness and would have become under his hand hold, unconscious and limp and lifeless, and he had to carry on. And if that's not reckless murder in this country, ladies and gentlemen, somebody will have to explain to me what is.
Do you find the defendant, Jesse Shane Kempson, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
On February 21st, 2020, the official sentencing hearing took place at the High Court in Auckland. The judge spoke in a firm voice. Jesse was sentenced to life in prison.
For the murder of Miss Millane, I sentence you to life imprisonment.
But before that cold-blooded man was escorted away to begin his years of punishment, he had to face the shattered pain of the victim's family through the tearful statements of Gillian Millane, Grace's mother, speaking by video link from England.
Grace was never just a daughter. She was my friend, my very best friend. You have ripped a hole in my heart, one that will never be repaired. You walked into our lives and destroyed Grace in the pursuit of your own sexual gratification. She died terrified and alone in a room with you. No life sentence you receive today will match the life sentence without my Grace.
Standing before the court, the grieving mother held up the final photo of her daughter, then painfully admitted that Grace's death had nearly dragged her into a dark abyss.
I look at our last family photograph together every minute of every day.
She then revealed what such a loss had done to her.
Last February, I went into a very dark place. I wanted to take my own life. The physical and emotional pain was just too much. But how can I add more pain to my already suffering family?
With a minimum non-parole period of 17 years. Right after the guilty verdict was announced, David Millane, Grace's father, stood on the courthouse steps on behalf of the family. His face was marked by deep devastation. and his voice trembled with pain as he spoke to the international media.
You'll have to forgive me because I'm not very good at this. The verdict of murder today will be welcomed by every member of the Millane family and friends of Grace. It will not reduce the pain, the suffering that we've had to endure for over the past year. I can't see it. Grace was taken away from us in the most brutal fashion a year ago, and our lives have been, and family have been ripped apart. This will be with us for the rest of our lives. Grace was a beautiful, talented, loving daughter. Grace was our sunshine, and she will be missed forever. She did not deserve to be murdered in such a barbaric way on her OE year. We would like to thank several people. Auckland Police Force, been professional, diligent and thorough all through this investigation. A special thank you to Detective Inspector Scott Beard, Detective Senior Sergeant Greg Brand and Detective Tony Jordan. We would like to thank the Crown Prosecution team, Brian, Robin and Lita. They never flinched away from the more intimate details of the case and were compassionate and thoughtful where the family matters arose. The press contingent, you lot, who have attended court every day with my wife and I and reported truthfully, respectfully, all events as they unfolded. Last but not least, we would love to thank the people of New Zealand. They've opened their hearts to Grace and her family. I cannot express our gratitude enough for all the offers and gifts of kindness that we have received over the last year. Finally, we must return home and try and pick up the pieces of our lives and day to day with our beloved Grace. Thank you all.
During sentencing, the judge emphasized the physical difference between Jesse and Grace. He was a large, strong man. Grace was much smaller, and in that situation, she was especially vulnerable.
You are a large and powerful man. She was diminutive. In those circumstances, Ms. Millane was particularly vulnerable. You were in a position of total physical dominance.
On a daily basis, I torment myself over what you did to my Grace. The terror and pain she must have experienced at your hands. As a mother, I would have done anything to change places with her. I sit full of guilt, knowing I couldn't help her, that I should have been there. She died terrified and alone in a room with you.
The verdict of murder today will be welcomed by every member of the Millane family and friends of Grace. It will not reduce the pain, the suffering that we've had to endure for over the past year. Grace was taken away from us in the most brutal fashion a year ago, and our lives have been, and family have been ripped apart. This will be with us for the rest of our lives. We would like to thank several people. Auckland Police Force, been professional, diligent and thorough all through this investigation. Last but not least, we would love to thank the people of New Zealand. They've opened their hearts to Grace and her family. I cannot express our gratitude enough for all the offers and gifts of kindness that we've received over the last year.
I've always thought that if it wasn't Grace, it was going to be someone. Now, I'm not a psychologist, so I can't talk about psychological profile, but what we do know is he's a liar. You know, a number of times we proved he lied to the police, he lied to others.
The case of Grace Millane shocked not only because of its severity, but also because of how the story was presented during the trial, which outraged the public. Many believed that the defense's attempt to portray a deliberate act as an accident was a form of victim blaming, something deeply shameful and offensive. The media, the legal community, and international audiences all spoke out in defense of Grace's dignity, emphasizing that she was the victim of an act of domination, not someone responsible for the tragedy that befell her. As for Jesse's family, they expressed their own shock and disappointment. One relative described him as a pathetic man living in delusion, while his stepbrother bluntly stated that Jesse always lied about meaningless things, kept making up stories until he was cornered, and only when he couldn't hide anymore did he break down and cry. After being convicted in Grace Millane's case, a crime that drew global attention, Jesse went on to face 2 additional trials the following year, both heard by a judge without a jury. 2 women, after watching news reports and recognizing his blurred image, immediately came forward to police. Both shared haunting experiences of Jesse's controlling, abusive, and manipulative behavior, helping reveal an even fuller picture of the man who had once shaken an entire nation. In the first trial held in October 2020, one of Jesse's former partners came forward and recounted the pattern of abuse she had suffered, from physical assault and emotional violation to financial control, including instances where he threatened her with a knife, used physical force, coerced her into unwanted acts, and stole $10,000 from her bank account. The court found Jesse guilty on 8 related charges and sentenced him to 7.5 years in prison. In November of the same year, he was tried again in a separate case involving a young British tourist he had met earlier through Tinder, in which she accused him of a serious assault accompanied by threats toward her and her family. Jesse was convicted in that case as well, and received an additional 3.5 years in prison, bringing the total additional term to 11 years, to be served concurrently with his sentence for Grace's case. When Judge Jeffrey Venning announced the verdict, Jesse reacted angrily in the courtroom.
You're so full of You have no reason to convict me. You're full of
The Millane family's tragedy did not end when the trial closed. In November 2020, David Millane, Grace's father, died after battling cancer. And when we look back at his journey through this case, that detail hurts even more. David was the one who flew to New Zealand when his daughter went missing, stood before the media to beg the public to help find Grace, and then had to sit through a trial where his daughter's private life was dragged out as part of Jesse's defense strategy. By December 2020, the name suppression order for Jesse Kempson finally expired for more than 2 years. His identity had been hidden in New Zealand to protect his right to a fair trial. That repeatedly angered the public, especially when international media had at times published his name while New Zealand outlets were still legally required to stay silent. But after the Court of Appeal rejected Jesse's appeal against his conviction for murdering Grace, and the Supreme Court refused his last-minute attempt to keep his name secret, the name Jesse Shane Kempson was finally made public. There were reports at the time that Jesse was also preparing to appeal the convictions in the 2 2020 cases. And true to the pattern we have seen from the beginning, he kept fighting, not to take responsibility, but to drag the story through one more round. To honor Grace, 51 relatives, friends, and family friends took part in a fundraising challenge for White Ribbon UK, an organization working to end male violence against women by encouraging men and boys to stand up, speak out, and challenge harmful behavior. They raised £11,872, a record amount White Ribbon UK had received from a single fundraising campaign at that time. And I think that was a very fitting way to honor Grace. Not just grief, but turning grief into action. Not just saying, we remember her, but also saying, we will do something so another woman does not have to go through the same thing.
She, very, very free spirit, a very independent woman. Yeah, she was just a lovely girl, and just all she ever wanted to do is see the world and enjoy life, which she did till.
I was very naive until Grace was murdered. I didn't realise that this was such a big problem. You sort of have your stereotypes and your ideas about domestic abuse, but it can be your work colleague, it can be your neighbour.
From an upstairs room in the family home, handbags are filled with toiletries and pampering treats, and they're sent to the refuges and shelters where women might suddenly find themselves spending the night.
I have good days and bad days. Not so much of the good days, but as I said, this really does help. The bag is just a bit of love, really. It's like telling them that you're worth something, and we'd love to give it to you, and maybe put a smile on your face that you might not have had for a long, long time.
Jill and Hannah started out with the aim of delivering 50 bags. Now they've sent thousands around the world, and each one comes with a card. Love, Grace. Geraint Vincent, ITV News.
After that, the Love Grace campaign was also created in her honor. The idea was very simple, but very human. Donating handbags filled with essential items to women leaving abusive relationships or seeking a safe place to stay. Those bags did not just contain supplies. They carried a message. You are not alone. You are believed, and you deserve to walk away from the place, hurting you with a little bit of dignity still intact. Love Grace describes its goal as supporting victims of domestic violence in memory of Grace Millane, and the campaign continues to operate in both the UK and New Zealand. And it belongs to the question we should not avoid. When a woman is killed, why does society still have the reflex to examine her life before looking directly at the actions of the person who killed her? What do you think is the most outrageous part of this case? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to see more cases analyzed through an investigative, psychological, and legal lens, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video, so stories like Grace's are not forgotten. I'll see you in the next true crime documentary. My name is Luca. Goodbye. As I pieced together these film clips, one question kept lingering in my mind. How truly safe are we in this world? I believe that anyone who watched Grace Millane's journey saw a part of themselves or a loved one in her. A young, ambitious person eager to venture out into the world, only to never return home. That pain was like a wound that hadn't yet healed, and then I was struck speechless again when I learned about the tragedy of Alexis Sharkey, a beautiful, radiant girl on social media, seemingly having everything, yet ultimately leaving life alone in the most cruel way. As a content creator, when I make a true crime documentary, what I seek isn't sensational details, but answers to such haunting hidden aspects. Grace and Alexis, two lives, two different destinies, but their heartbreaking end is why I stand here, telling you this story, so that we not only mourn, but also learn how to protect each other from the invisible dangers in modern life. Alexis Lee Sharkey was born on July 30, 1994, in Warren County, Pennsylvania. From a very young age, people around her remembered her as a smart, outgoing girl who always carried a very special kind of energy. Alexis Sharkey's parents were Richard Robinall and Stacy Robinall. She was the oldest daughter in the family and had two younger sisters, Tiffany Robinall and Abigail Robinall. The three sisters grew up together in rural Pennsylvania. In 2016, Alexis graduated from the University of Pittsburgh at Bradford with a degree in biology. At one point, her family believed she would pursue a career in medicine because Alexis had a very analytical mind and took her studies extremely seriously. But after college, her life took a completely different turn. This was the moment social media started exploding across America. Instagram was no longer just a place to post photos. It had become an entire industry, and Alexis quickly immersed herself in that world. She joined Monat, a beauty and hair care brand that was hugely popular on social media at the time. In a short period of time, Alexis built the image of a successful lifestyle influencer. Luxury travel, fashion, beauty, poolside parties, and a life that tens of thousands of followers admired every single day. On Instagram, Alexis almost always appeared with a bright smile. Perfect, confident, full of life. In the summer of 2017, after being engaged for some time, Alexis suddenly called off her engagement with her fiancé. People close to her said that period affected her deeply, even though, on the outside, Alexis still tried to appear stable and positive, like she always did. And honestly, that was pretty much how Alexis handled everything. Some former co-workers from Twin Peaks later said they were the ones who helped Alexis get through that difficult chapter of her life. And it was there that she met Thomas Sharkey. Tom was a regular customer at the restaurant. He was nearly 2 decades older than Alexis, had a large, muscular build, and often came across as experienced, confident, and very charismatic in conversation. According to Alexis' friends, Tom was extremely good at making people around him feel comfortable. One of Alexis's friends later recalled that she could almost see the connection between the two from the very first conversations they had. Tom worked in oil and gas consulting, a job that frequently took him across different states and countries. For Alexis, that was especially appealing. She already loved traveling, loved the feeling of freedom, and was drawn to the image of a mature, experienced man who always seemed to have stories about life on the road and traveling abroad. Their relationship moved pretty quickly. At the time, Alexis was beginning to build her influencer image on social media, while Tom seemed to offer her a sense of stability, maturity, and security after her broken engagement. At least, that's what people saw from the outside. His job in the oil and gas industry required him to constantly travel between different cities and countries, and that was something Alexis absolutely loved. She loved the feeling of packing a suitcase and just leaving, road trips, last-minute flights. That feeling like life was always moving forward. Tom gave her exactly that kind of lifestyle. He was tall, heavily built, and looked more like a bodybuilder than a typical office worker. And there was also a very noticeable age gap between them. At the time, Alexis was only in her 20s, while Tom was already in his 40s. He had been married before, divorced, and had 2 children from his previous marriage. But for Alexis, none of that really seemed to matter. Friends said she genuinely liked Tom. Not in some superficial, flashy way, but because she truly believed she saw something good inside him. Alexis once said she loved Tom's heart, and during the early stages of their relationship, things between them genuinely felt natural. Meanwhile, Alexis had started feeling exhausted by the pace of her work life. She was working almost non-stop. Besides Twin Peaks, Alexis was juggling several other jobs, and she was almost always in work mode. People who knew her said Alexis was the type of person who could never really sit still. But little by little, she began feeling drained by the idea of trading all of her time just to keep chasing money. And then, right around that time, Alexis started paying attention to a cosmetics company called Monat. At first, it was simply a hair care brand she was personally using. But Alexis quickly realized that what Monat was really selling wasn't just shampoo or beauty products. It was an entire lifestyle. If you've never heard of it before, Monat stands for Modern Nature. It's an American beauty and hair care company founded in Florida in 2014. The company became well known for its MLM business model, short for multi-level marketing. What Monat sold wasn't just shampoo or cosmetics. It was the image of a financially free lifestyle. The company recruited independent sellers, usually influencers or social media users, to sell products, build teams, recruit new people into the system, and earn money from the sales generated by the network beneath them. Between 2017 and 2020, Monat absolutely exploded on Instagram and TikTok across the United States, especially among young women chasing influencer lifestyle culture. People constantly posted luxury travel photos, cars, laptop lifestyle content, beach resorts, work from anywhere, girl boss culture, and that whole luxury freedom aesthetic. It was an image of financial freedom, travel, online work, and the kind of perfect life American social media was obsessed with at the time. And Alexis quickly blended into that world. Unlike many people who joined MLM companies and quit a few months later, Alexis seemed to find her place almost immediately. In a short amount of time, she left her old jobs behind to focus full-time on Monat and building her social media brand. According to information released by Monat at the time, people who reached the executive director level could earn an average of tens of thousands of dollars per month, and Alexis was gradually moving toward that position. Her life started changing very quickly. Constant travel, luxury retreats, a rapidly growing Instagram following, and the image of a young woman living the dream life was slowly being perfected across social media. But like so many influencer stories we've seen since then, the more perfect things looked on the outside, the more complicated everything behind the scenes sometimes really was. By the summer of 2019, Alexis and Tom's relationship had become very serious. The two got engaged, and not long afterward, decided to move to Colorado to start a new life together. At the time, Colorado was almost a dream state for many young Americans. Mountains, road trips, nature, that free-spirited lifestyle. And for Alexis, it looked exactly like the kind of life she had always imagined for herself. They moved to Colorado in August 2019 and stayed there through the final months of the year. During that period, Alexis's social media was almost completely filled with travel content. The two constantly drove through mountain highways, visited famous locations across Colorado, and documented nearly everything through vlogs and Instagram clips. In those videos, they looked exactly like the perfect influencer lifestyle couple. There were shots of Tom smiling in front of the rocky landscapes at Colorado National Monument. Moments of the two embracing at Black Canyon of the Gunnison, then Garden of the Gods, long open roads, golden evening sunlight, kisses in front of the camera. In December 2019, Alexis and Tom officially got married at a courthouse in Colorado. There was no lavish wedding or massive ceremony, just a quiet marriage registration between the two of them. A few months later, they left Colorado and moved back to Texas, this time to Houston. At that point, Alexis was only 26 years old, while Tom was already 49. Houston gave Alexis a fresh start, a bigger city, more opportunities, and it also became the place where she started building her own social circle. November 26, 2020, Thanksgiving Day. That morning, Alexis was still texting her mother like usual. Just a few short messages wishing each other a happy Thanksgiving. Since both of them were busy, they didn't talk on the phone that day. Nothing about the conversation made the family feel concerned. That evening, Alexis went to Tanya Ricardo's house for Thanksgiving dinner with a group of friends. One thing a few people later remembered was Tom wasn't there with her. Now, of course, that didn't automatically mean there were problems in the marriage. A lot of couples spend holidays separately with friends or family. But for people who knew Alexis, it still felt a little unusual for a newly married couple not to spend Thanksgiving together. Especially because Alexis genuinely loved holidays like this. After dinner, Alexis continued hanging out with another friend. The two went to a bar and stayed out until around 3 a.m. Before heading home, Alexis texted Tanya saying she was stopping back by the house to pick up a few things she had accidentally left after dinner. But Tanya was already asleep and didn't see the message. Based on what friends and investigators later pieced together, Alexis got into her car and drove home early the next morning. And then Black Friday began. For most Americans, Black Friday is basically the biggest shopping event of the year. But for influencers and people working in social media marketing like Alexis, that day mattered even more. It was when brands launched massive sales, influencers posted non-stop, live-streamed non-stop, and promoted products almost all day long. Especially in the MLM world like Monet, Black Friday was practically one of the busiest days of the entire year. And that's when people started noticing something very unusual. Alexis disappeared from social media. The last time Alexis's friends saw her active in the group chat was sometime between 6 and 6:30 p.m. that evening. After that, everything suddenly went silent. No new Instagram stories, no TikToks, no messages. Not a single post all throughout Black Friday. And for Alexis, that was almost impossible. Her friends knew Alexis's habits very well. Her phone was almost always in her hand, especially on a major social media marketing day like Black Friday. Alexis completely disappearing from the internet started making people feel uneasy. Then a few hours later, Tom started texting a man named John, the boyfriend of one of Alexis's close friends. Tom asked whether they had heard anything from Alexis, but what immediately felt strange to John was that the entire conversation was happening through text messages. To John, the situation sounded way too serious to just casually text back and forth about. Eventually, around 11 p.m., he decided to call Tom directly. The phone call lasted around 45 minutes, and that was when Tom said Alexis was missing. According to Tom at the time, he and Alexis had gotten into an argument before she left the house. Tom claimed Alexis stormed off after the fight, but what made John feel uneasy wasn't just the story itself. It was the way Tom told it. Later, when people started comparing timelines, they realized Tom's version of events changed several times. At first, Tom said the two of them had argued, and later he claimed there had never been any argument at all. By that evening, sometime before 9:00 p.m., Alexis's friends started believing this was no longer a normal loss of contact situation. It was actually them, not Tom, who decided to call the police and file the very first missing person report. Right after that, Alexis's mother, Stacy Robinall, along with her friends, began posting across social media, hoping someone out there had seen her. Instagram, Facebook, stories, group posts. The hashtags Justice for Lex and Justice for Alexis started appearing everywhere, as friends tried to get the attention of the Houston community. In one heartbreaking post, Alexis's mother wrote that the family had not heard from her in more than 24 hours and begged people to help bring her daughter home safely. They also shared information about Alexis's white Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, hoping someone might have spotted her somewhere in the city. That same morning, Houston city workers discovered the body of a woman along the side of a road near Interstate 10, about 17 miles west of downtown Houston. At first, the scene made a few people think it was just a mannequin dumped on the roadside, until they got closer. The woman's body was lying right off the side of the road. There were no signs of a traffic accident, no clothing, no personal belongings nearby. And what disturbed the city workers the most was that her body appeared almost unnaturally clean. According to the initial reports, the body showed no mud, dirt, or obvious signs of being dragged. Everything about the scene looked almost unreal, as if someone had placed her there just minutes earlier. The way the body was positioned on the ground also seemed very strange. Strange enough that the first driver who passed by thought it was just a mannequin dumped on the roadside. He didn't stop right away, but the feeling that something was wrong kept bothering him, so he decided to call his supervisor. When the supervisor drove out to check the area, he noticed a pair of legs partially visible through the grass near the roadside. At first, he still wasn't completely sure what he was looking at, but as soon as he got closer, he immediately called 911.
As we was driving, we could see the feet, so we got out and looked, and there it was. She was laying there, deceased. She was no clothes on, and I just got on the phone and I called 911.
When police processed the scene, body had no personal belongings with it. No phone, no wallet, no shoes. Her body had been left along Red Haw Lane, near Interstate 10 in West Houston. According to the initial investigation, police believed the body had been there overnight. The scene also suggested the killer had made almost no effort to hide the body. Alexis's body was left fairly exposed near the roadside, visible enough for city workers to quickly notice it the next morning. Meanwhile, Alexis's family still had no idea what had happened. That Sunday morning, they were still hoping she was alive, partly because Alexis's phone was reportedly still showing signs of activity for a period of time after she disappeared. But on the other side of the city, Tom Sharkey had already been taken by police to identify the body. And not long after that, the victim's identity was officially confirmed. It was Alexis Sharkey. The news quickly began appearing across local Houston news stations.
New details on the death of Alexis Robinall, who goes by Alexis Sharkey, a 26-year-old Instagram influencer from Texas. Houston police confirm she was found dead without any of her clothes on around the 3-mile mark from her apartment, also near the Interstate 10 frontage road in northwest Houston. Investigators say she had no visible injuries on her body, and they're still waiting on the autopsy to determine how she died. Sharkey's mother tells reporters her daughter was murdered. Friends said in the weeks leading up to her death, Sharkey said she was worried about someone close in her life. Katie Johnston for CBS 11 News.
By the end of that day, everything on social media had completely changed. The missing person posts slowly started turning into memorial tributes. Alexis' friends kept reposting photos of her, while the comment sections filled with unanswered questions. Friends were still sharing missing person flyers online, not knowing Alexis had already been found. And then her mother, Stacey Robitno, posted the message that no mother should ever have to write. She wrote, "With deeply broken hearts, Mike and I want to let all of you know that Lexi's body has been found. We do not know how to begin to thank all of you for the love and kind words you have shown our family. Please give us time to grieve this enormous loss to our family and to this world. We will miss her. We love you. As information about the crime scene started appearing in the media, a lot of people immediately began asking the same question. If this was a homicide, then why were there almost no obvious signs of physical trauma on Alexis's body? No clearly visible wounds, no large amount of blood at the scene. And because of that, in the early stages, Houston police had not even officially classified the case as a homicide yet. But the internet didn't wait that long. As soon as the story started spreading across social media and local news, theories began appearing almost immediately. Some people believed Alexis may have been poisoned. Others thought she could have accidentally overdosed on drugs. And then some people started bringing up the possibility of strangulation. Because in many cases, that kind of killing can leave very little visible trauma at first glance. The lack of visible injuries only made the case more confusing.
I don't know what happened, but I do know it was not an accident. So I don't know what precipitated this. I don't know any, but I feel like I will when this all pans out, and I will be an advocate for it not to happen to anybody else.
After the autopsy confirmed that Alexis died from strangulation, the investigation quickly began shifting toward her marriage to Tom Sharkey. And that was when Alexis's close friends started speaking more openly about the things she had told them during the final weeks of her life.
I looked at her and I was like, she's petrified. This girl is scared for her life.
Another friend told the Daily Beast that Alexis confided in her that she and her husband were having marital problems and that he had been putting hands on her. There were also reports she wanted a divorce. When social media erupted with commentary about the husband, he lashed out on Instagram, denying there was trouble in the marriage and saying he's helping with the investigation. If my wife would have seen this, she would be disappointed in your actions. You all should be ashamed of yourselves. Next time, stop and think and realize you don't know it all. Reporter Steve Campion with KTRK TV in Houston has been speaking with Tom Sharkey by phone.
I asked him about the last time that he had seen Alexis, and he said, I saw her, she was leaving, I told her not to drive under the influence, I told her not to drive intoxicated, she went anyways, and that's where we're at, is what he said. And I said, what do you mean by that? Where was she going? When you asked for specifics or you tried to ask for details, he wouldn't provide those.
According to friends, Alexis had already been planning to leave Tom. They said the two had started separating their bank accounts. Divorce paperwork had reportedly already been prepared, just waiting to be signed. If that was true, then the timeline of the case suddenly became extremely significant. Because Alexis lost her life at the exact moment she was supposedly preparing to leave the marriage. And then another detail started spreading across the internet. During an earlier trip to Tulum, Alexis had reportedly been introduced to a Houston DJ named Sebastian. According to friends, the two quickly became close. Almost immediately, social media started doing what social media always does in high-profile cases. People began piecing together timelines, relationships, possible motives, and within just a few days, the Alexis Sharkey story was no longer being viewed as just a missing person case. It became the kind of case the internet almost believed it could solve on its own. And once the internet thinks it can solve a murder, things get loud fast. As more information started coming out, the timeline leading up to the night Alexis disappeared only became more complicated. Some friends claimed that Alexis and Sebastian, the Houston DJ she met during the Tulum trip, had started seeing each other sometime near the end of 2020. But not everyone agreed with that version of the story. Some people said the relationship was only close friendship. Others believed Alexis was trying to leave her marriage with Tom before starting anything new. And honestly, that's the problem with a lot of high-profile internet cases. Rumors start moving faster than facts. What could be confirmed more clearly was that Sebastian was the one who picked Alexis up on Thanksgiving night. He took her to a bar. The two stayed out until around 3 a.m., and afterward Alexis went back home. As for what Alexis and Sebastian really were to each other, at that point, nobody truly knew. Maybe they were starting to develop feelings for each other. Maybe it was simply a very close friendship during a time when Alexis was trying to leave Tom. It's also possible Tom knew about it and acted like he accepted it because the marriage was already falling apart. Or Tom knew and absolutely did not accept it at all. And that's the part where this story starts becoming even more tense. Because nobody truly knows how much Tom knew that night, what Alexis said to him, or what their final conversation actually looked like. But there was one thing Alexis's friends and family kept repeating over and over. Tom's story changed way too many times. In one version, Tom claimed Alexis left the apartment in a black vehicle. In another version, he said she left on foot. At one point, he said the two had argued. Later, he claimed there had been no argument at all. And honestly, when someone keeps changing basic details like that, whether she left in a car or on foot, whether there was a fight or not, it's very understandable that people start asking questions. The more Tom explained, the less the story held together. And eventually, the case started revolving around one much more specific question. What exactly did Tom Sharkey know on the night Alexis disappeared? On top of that, the more people looked at the timeline from that night, the harder Tom's story became to make sense. If Alexis really had walked out of the apartment alone in the dark and rain in Houston, then where exactly was she going? None of Alexis's close friends lived near enough for her to simply walk there. And her friends also made it very clear that nobody received any calls or messages from Alexis that night. That also made the theory that she took an Uber or got a ride from someone else seem pretty questionable. Because if Alexis had contacted anyone, there should have been some kind of trace on her phone. Messages, calls, location history, something. But based on what was publicly released at the time, there was almost no evidence suggesting Alexis had intentionally contacted anyone after returning to the apartment. And honestly, this is the kind of small detail that doesn't sound huge at first, but the more you think about it, the stranger it becomes. A young woman, late at night, cold, rainy, and dark outside, no phone, no car. No telling anyone where she was going. According to her friends, that simply did not sound like Alexis at all. Nothing about that version of the story felt normal. While the internet continued dissecting every detail of the case, Houston police stated that Tom was still cooperating with the investigation. At the same time, investigators asked Alexis's family and friends to avoid posting too much information online, partly because the case had already started attracting massive attention across social media. And honestly, I understand why police wanted that. Once a case turns into an internet obsession, people start seeing clues everywhere. Police also urged residents living near the apartment complex and surrounding roads to check their surveillance cameras, hoping to find any footage showing where Alexis may have gone after Thanksgiving night. After those interviews, Alexis's friends and family became even more vocal in the media. Because to them, The way Tom described Alexis simply did not sound like the person they knew in real life at all.
She was kind to everyone. She made sure everyone was included. She was a friend to literally all.
She was just like the light of the room. Like she was just so smart and just so funny.
Everyone loved her. She was just such like a bright light. Her giggles all the time, and that's it. Like she's never a down person. Definitely the spirit that we needed in our friend group. She brought so much joy. She kept us all together.
She was always happy, always had a smile on her face. A lot of people looked up to her. She was just very, very positive, always positive, very knowledgeable, knew a lot about what was going on, loved being an influencer.
Finally, on January 19, 2021, Alexis Sharkey's official cause of death was publicly released. The autopsy report concluded that she died from strangulation. Her manner of death was officially ruled a homicide, and honestly, for many people following the case at the time, that conclusion almost just confirmed what they had suspected from the very beginning. Because if this had only been an overdose or some kind of accident, then how did Alexis end up found naked, without her phone, without any personal belongings, lying along the roadside in West Houston? As if someone had simply stopped a vehicle and left her there. Nothing about that scene looked accidental. But more importantly, once the case was officially classified as a homicide, it completely changed the scope of the Houston police investigation, and as you can probably guess, by that point, there was already one person sitting at the center of attention for both the internet and investigators alike, Tom Sharkey. However, there was one problem. By the time the case was officially confirmed as a homicide, police had almost completely lost track of Tom. According to later reports, Tom left Texas not long after Alexis's death. And what made the situation even stranger was that he did it almost entirely in silence. Tom's social media, which had once been fairly active, almost completely disappeared from the internet. And honestly, that was the moment the case started taking on the full vibe of a fugitive investigation. A wife murdered, a husband who vanished from the state almost immediately afterward. A homicide investigation growing hotter by the day. And suddenly, this wasn't just a murder investigation anymore. It was a manhunt. It took law enforcement months to finally track down where Tom was hiding. But when they eventually found him, the story took yet another turn. Because as you know, someone can disappear from the internet for a while. But it's much harder to disappear from a federal homicide investigation forever. Eventually, authorities tracked Tom Sharkey down in the state of Georgia. And after several attempts to contact him, Tom finally agreed to provide a DNA sample to investigators in August 2021. There was just one problem. He never showed up. Tom agreed to the DNA test, and then just didn't show up. Now, I understand that under the American legal system, nobody is considered guilty until that is proven in court. And at that point, Tom had not officially been charged with anything yet. But if you look at the entire timeline, the way investigators probably saw it, it becomes very difficult not to ask questions. During the investigation, detectives also uncovered additional information about Tom and Alexis's relationship. According to investigative records released later, Tom had a history of domestic violence involving Alexis. And that detail changed the overall picture of the case quite a bit, because before that, some people still believed the marriage was simply falling apart, like many marriages do. But once allegations involving controlling behavior, manipulation, and violence started surfacing alongside the strangulation ruling, The divorce Alexis was reportedly preparing for no longer felt like a peaceful separation. It started looking more like a situation Alexis was trying to escape from. And, according to friends, Tom may have realized she was serious about leaving. That was also when investigators began believing they didn't just have a suspect. They had motive, they had history, and they had a timeline that was becoming increasingly difficult to explain in an innocent way. On September 29, 2021, investigators finally obtained an arrest warrant for Tom Sharkey. After nearly a year of investigation, the case officially entered its next phase. Now, the manhunt for Tom Sharkey had officially begun. Fortunately for law enforcement, this time Tom had not completely disappeared like before. Investigators believed he was in Fort Myers, Florida, more specifically, staying with his daughter. And honestly, this was the point where the case truly started feeling like a federal fugitive investigation. U.S. Marshals had to be extremely careful with their approach, because when someone being hunted for homicide realizes police have tracked them down, nobody can predict how they might react. Undercover officers began watching the house from a distance. No rushing in, no drawing attention, just observing. Around 10 p.m. on October 5th, 2021, they finally confirmed that Tom was inside the home. Officers saw him going in and out several times throughout the day, and according to investigators, it appeared Tom was relying on his daughter to avoid being detected. Although there was no indication she fully understood the legal situation involving her father. After confirming that Tom was still inside the house, the U.S. Marshals decided to move in the following morning. The home was quickly surrounded. And if you've ever seen U.S. Marshals body cam footage before, you already know these kinds of approaches usually happen very fast. Not much talking, not much time to react. Officers moved to the front door and knocked. Tom's daughter answered the door. According to later reports, she was quickly moved aside so law enforcement could enter the house and search for Tom. Officers began clearing the downstairs area, the living room, the kitchen, the hallway. But Tom Sharkey was nowhere downstairs. And that was the moment law enforcement realized just how dangerous and unpredictable Tom Sharkey could be. While officers were still clearing the first floor of the house, a gunshot suddenly rang out from upstairs. There was no time for negotiations, no time to react. Officers immediately rushed up the stairs and entered the room where the shot had come from. Inside the bedroom, they found Tom Sharkey. He had shot himself in the head, and honestly, that was the moment the entire case changed forever. Because within just a few seconds, the only person who could fully explain what happened to Alexis on her final night was suddenly gone too. According to law enforcement reports, Tom was still showing signs of life when officers found him, but the injury was far too severe. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Tom's death was never an official confession, and legally speaking, the case was never brought to trial in court. But for many people following the case, especially Alexis' family and friends, that act seemed to say everything. A man wanted for homicide, who fled the state, avoided investigators for months, then ended his own life the moment U.S. Marshals surrounded the house. And honestly, it became very difficult for many people not to see that as the final chapter of this story. To a lot of people, that wasn't the behavior of an innocent man. It looked like a man who knew the walls were closing in. But the most heartbreaking part is this. Even after Tom's death, Alexis's family will probably never know exactly what happened inside that apartment on Thanksgiving night in 2020. They will never hear a confession, never know exactly how the argument began, never know the precise moment things spiraled out of control. And that's what makes the Alexis Sharkey case so haunting to so many people. Because in the end, this wasn't just the story of an Instagram influencer. It was the story of a young woman who was reportedly trying to leave a marriage her friends believed had become dangerous, but didn't make it out before it was too late. And technically speaking, this is also what made the Alexis Sharkey case far more complicated than the internet often wanted to believe. Because even though Tom was viewed by the public as the killer very early on, police never publicly released direct forensic evidence linking him to the murder scene. There was no confession, no trial, no official conviction handed down in court, which means that if Tom had still been alive and the case had actually gone to trial, the final outcome may not have been as simple or predictable as the internet believed at the time. But at the same time, investigators also believed there was a strong possibility Alexis and Tom had gotten into a serious argument before she lost her life. According to what Alexis' friends later shared, there were several things that may have caused the situation to escalate. And if you look at the entire timeline of this case, from beginning to end, almost everything seems to come back to one central theme: control. Control over the relationship, control over the narrative, and in the end, control over how the story finished. According to investigators, this was most likely a case of intimate partner violence, something that, sadly, happens far more often than most people realize. And in Alexis' case, her friends believed there had been warning signs long before her death. Tom was nearly 2 decades older than her. Physically, he completely overpowered her. And according to friends, he showed controlling, manipulative, and at times violent behavior. What makes it especially heartbreaking is that Alexis seemed determined to keep the struggles inside her marriage away from social media. And honestly, that's pretty understandable too. At the time, Alexis's Instagram had become the image of a perfect life. Travel photos, luxury trips, happy couple videos, influencer lifestyle content. Everything was carefully curated to look beautiful. Alexis' family and friends later said they wished she had talked more openly about what she was going through. Not because they blamed her, but because they believed that if Alexis had felt safe enough to ask for help sooner, maybe things could have turned out differently. And that's also why the Alexis Sharkey case is still talked about today. Intimate partner violence is often imagined as bruises or obvious physical assaults. But in reality, many toxic relationships begin with control, emotional manipulation, isolation, and making the other person live in a constant state of fear. And according to Alexis's family and friends, that was exactly what they had started suspecting about Tom long before she died. From the outside, Tom looked like a successful man. Their life looked perfect on Instagram. Luxury travel, a big social circle, an influencer couple whose life always seemed fine. But behind that image, Alexis's friends said Tom had a very strong need to control her. From her emotions, to her personal relationships, to the way she lived her life. And after Alexis died, many people realized that the things they once thought felt a little off were actually warning signs of a relationship becoming dangerous. According to friends, Alexis had already been preparing to leave Tom. The divorce paperwork was reportedly almost ready. Their finances were being separated. she had started talking about her own future instead of a future with her husband. In other words, Alexis wasn't trapped without a way out. She had already started finding her way out. And honestly, that may be the most heartbreaking part of this entire story. Anyway, guys, I really want to hear your thoughts on this case. Do you believe Tom was responsible for Alexis's death? Or do you think there's still something the public never found out? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. I always read them. If you enjoy true crime documentaries told in this investigative style, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next case. It really helps support the channel. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch all the way to the end of the video. My name is Luca, and please take care of yourselves, take care of the people around you, and stay safe. Closing the Alexis Sharkey case, my heart is heavy with sympathy for an innocent victim. However, in the journey of making true crime documentaries, what chills me most is not just the pain of those left behind, but realizing that evil sometimes hides behind the harmless face of a teenage girl. Moving on to the next story, we will not cry for a victim, but shudder at the perpetrator, Mackenzie Shirilla. At the age of 19, she coldly turned a speeding car into a weapon to take the life of her own boyfriend. From pity for Alexis, let me lead you into a darker, more infuriating corner, where cruelty lurks beneath a veneer of innocence. Mackenzie Shirilla was born on August 2, 2004, and grew up in Strongsville, Ohio, a quiet suburb just outside Cleveland. From the outside looking in, her life seemed almost like the perfect suburban American dream. A stable family, a comfortable home, friends, school, teen parties, and of course, social media. Like a lot of teenage girls at the time, Mackenzie practically lived on TikTok and Instagram. Dance videos, photos with friends, captions like "living my best life." Everything made it seem like she was just another normal teenager enjoying her youth. But sometimes, social media only shows you the edited version of a person. Because according to several people who went to school with Mackenzie and knew her personally, personality started changing noticeably as she entered her teenage years. Some described her as controlling, quick-tempered, and someone who always wanted things to go her way. And what stood out was, Mackenzie usually got what she wanted. According to investigation records and later testimony, she began getting involved with substance use and increasingly rebellious behavior during her high school years. One of the most talked about incidents happened just weeks before the crash, when Mackenzie was allegedly involved in vandalism at a local church while under the influence. From that point on, many people around her started feeling like something was slipping out of control. But to her parents, Mackenzie was still the daughter they had always known, a teenager who might have been a little rebellious, but someone they believed would eventually grow out of it. It was at Strongsville High School that Mackenzie met Dominic Russo. And if you ask almost anyone who knew Dominic, they all tend to describe him the same way. He was the kind of person who could walk into a room and instantly make the atmosphere lighter. Dominic was known for his sense of humor. He was always the funny guy in the group, the one who kept his siblings laughing every day, and usually the person with the biggest smile in every photo. But what made people truly respect Dominic wasn't just his personality, it was his ambition. Even in his early 20s, Dominic was already trying to pursue multiple paths at once. Small business ventures, music production, sports, building a personal brand. He was the type of person who genuinely believed he could turn something big into reality if he worked hard enough for it. And according to his family, Dominic was also planning to join the military. Not just to build a future for himself, but because he wanted to do something meaningful for his community. Then he met Mackenzie. At first, their relationship looked exactly like a typical American teenage love story. The two were quickly drawn to each other. They started dating in 2021 and kept the relationship private in the beginning. But that didn't last long. Before long, both of their social media accounts were filled with pictures together. Late-night hangouts, long drives, sweet little captions about young love. And from the outside, they looked like the kind of couple people thought would stay together for a long time. Their families also became close. Mackenzie spent a lot of time at Dominic's house. The two were practically inseparable, almost like they were trying to live faster than their age. Everything looked perfect, until Dominic started seeing another side of Mackenzie, a side very few people outside the relationship knew about at the time. Over time, the relationship between Dominic and Mackenzie began shifting in ways that made people around them uncomfortable. According to testimony and audio recordings later presented in court, Dominic was becoming emotionally exhausted by the level of control in the relationship. Mackenzie wanted to know where he was, who he was with, what he was doing, and every argument always seemed to end the way she wanted it to. But the strange part was, while everything behind closed doors was slowly falling apart, their social media still looked perfect. Photos hugging each other, videos laughing together, captions filled with hearts. The kind of relationship that, if you only saw it online, you'd probably call relationship goals. Until Dominic decided to end it. According to case records, Dominic tried to distance himself from Mackenzie after a series of arguments. But for Mackenzie, it didn't seem like this was simply a breakup. She couldn't accept losing control of the relationship. And that's when things started escalating, very quickly. According to audio recordings played during the trial, Mackenzie repeatedly showed up outside Dominic's house, demanding that he open the door, shifting back and forth between pleading, anger, and threats. In one recording, Dominic could be heard trying to stay calm, while Mackenzie continued pressuring him from outside the house.
I'm going to key my car. Tell me to break the door.
Key your car if you do not let me in the house.
You're going to key my car
if you don't let me in the house, yes.
Meanwhile, Dominic kept trying to calm the situation down. He didn't want to open the door. He tried to talk things through calmly, tried to bring everything back down to earth. But every time he said no, Mackenzie's reaction only became more intense.
Dom, if you do not open, you think I'm joking. You think I'm joking. Like, I'm dead ass.
What do you mean?
You know it. That's exactly what I mean. You don't even know exactly what I mean. You're going to come open this door right now, or there's going to be a serious problem.
But the more Dominic saw who Mackenzie really was behind the anger and controlling behavior, the more convinced he became that leaving the relationship was the right thing to do. At least, that's what he believed at the time. Because like many toxic relationships, things between them never truly ended. They would have explosive arguments, break up, block each other, and then a few days later, they'd get back together like nothing had ever happened. An emotional cycle that, over time, started becoming dangerous, and somehow they reconciled once again. This time, Mackenzie seemed completely different. Less angry, more gentle, calmer. According to people around them, she genuinely appeared to be trying to save the relationship. At least, that was the image everyone saw. Mackenzie began planning a night out with Dominic at a party hosted by their friends. And according to multiple accounts later on, she planned that night almost down to every detail. The timing, the location, even how the two of them would show up together. When Dominic and Mackenzie arrived at the party, many of their friends were happy to see them back together. The perfect couple was back. The atmosphere that night felt exactly like a typical American summer night. Loud music, groups of friends hanging out in the yard, laughter, random Snapchat videos being recorded. And that feeling like life was still completely ahead of you. Nobody there knew that just a few hours later, two of them would never make it home again. The party itself felt like the kind of summer night young people remember forever. Everyone was dancing, drinking, filming Snapchat videos, and trying to stretch the night out as long as possible. Like nobody wanted summer to end, Dominic seemed happy. According to friends later on, he was smiling a lot that night. It almost seemed like getting back together with Mackenzie. Him believed that maybe everything was finally going to be okay, and Mackenzie also appeared cheerful. But looking back at the entire case now, that feeling later became deeply difficult to explain. At the party, the couple ran into Davion Flanagan, one of Dominic's closest friends. Davion was only 19 years old at the time, and people who knew him usually described him with one word: kind-hearted. He had recently graduated from Strongsville High School, had played football for the school, and was planning to attend barber school so he could eventually open his own shop back home. Davion continued partying with Dominic and Mackenzie until early morning. Afterward, the group stayed at a friend's house for a few more hours while daylight slowly started appearing outside the windows. Around 5 a.m., Mackenzie woke Dominic up so they could head home. Davion also woke up at that point and asked for a ride. And that's how, in the early morning hours of July 31, 2022, just one day before Mackenzie's 18th birthday, 3 young people left the party in her 2018 Toyota Camry. None of them knew that short drive would become their final ride. Mackenzie was behind the wheel. Dominic was in the front passenger seat. Davion Flanagan was sitting in the back, and there was one small detail that would later become incredibly important. According to investigators, Mackenzie was the only person in the car wearing a seatbelt. At first, the Toyota Camry appeared to be driving normally. Surveillance footage captured the car turning from Pearl Road onto Progress Drive while still fully under control. There were no signs of the driver losing control, no swerving, no immediate chaos. But right after making that turn, everything changed. Mackenzie hit the gas, and according to investigators, she never let off. Progress Drive is a short road located inside a quiet industrial area in Strongsville. It's mostly straight, usually empty, and at that hour, around 5:30 a.m. on a Sunday, there was almost nobody around. In less than a mile, the Camry accelerated to nearly 100 miles per hour. No braking, no slowing down, no sign of trying to avoid a collision. The car tore through the industrial district in the dim early morning light, heading straight toward the end of the road, where a brick building stood directly ahead. And then, in the final moments, the vehicle drove straight into the building. The impact was so violent that first responders later described the car as barely recognizable. One officer at the scene radioed that the vehicle had been split in half. But what made the situation even more chilling was Nobody discovered the crash right away. It was early Sunday morning. The industrial area was nearly empty. No traffic passing through. No nearby witnesses. Nobody heard the impact and immediately ran over. It wasn't until roughly 45 minutes later that a passerby finally spotted the scene and called 911. When Strongsville police arrived, the Camry had almost been torn completely in two. The front end was crushed deep into the brick wall, with debris scattered across the roadway. One officer described the scene over the radio in simple terms. The car is split in half. As soon as the first officer approached the wreckage, he immediately called for additional support. Over the radio, he reported that the vehicle was completely destroyed, and there were still people trapped inside. And from that moment on, the biggest question was no longer, how did the car crash into that building? It became, why didn't it stop?
Radio, there's an occupant inside. Send us a squad now. This is not a fresh accident either. She's been here for a while. Radio, we got at least 2 occupants in here. No one's moving. Oh my God. Oh my God. ×3, guys. Radio, 3 occupants. No one's conscious. No one's breathing.
Then officers realized the driver was still alive. Mackenzie Shirilla was still breathing, but she was severely trapped inside the front section of the Camry, which had been completely mangled by the impact. The crushed frame had collapsed tightly around the driver's seat, making it impossible for first responders to pull her out immediately. According to reports from the scene, Mackenzie's fuzzy slippers were still positioned near the gas pedal when officers approached the vehicle. Firefighters and rescue crews had to use specialized extraction equipment to cut through the wreckage before they could free her. In the radio transmissions and body cam footage later released, you could clearly hear the tension in the officers' voices at the scene. From the very first moments, they understood this was not a normal crash. The level of destruction showed that the force of impact had been extreme.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
48-year-old.
I know. Jesus Christ. This is the worst I've ever seen. Rest in peace, buddy.
Mackenzie Shirilla survived. Dominic Russo and Davian Flanagan did not. As rescue crews continued working the scene, debris from the Camry was scattered all around the building. The level of destruction was so severe that many people later said the crash site looked more like the aftermath of an explosion than a normal traffic collision. Firefighters eventually managed to pull Mackenzie from the completely crushed front section of the car. She was airlifted to Metro Health Medical Center in critical condition and underwent multiple major surgeries to save her life. Hospital tests later showed that Mackenzie tested positive for THC, consistent with marijuana use before the crash. Investigators also found psilocybin mushrooms and a digital scale inside the vehicle. At first, investigators focused on the possibility that this was simply an impaired driving crash. A teenager driving under the influence and losing control at high speed. But the deeper investigators went into the vehicle data, surveillance footage, and the relationship between Mackenzie and Dominic. The more the case started shifting in a different direction, a much more serious one. According to testimony later referenced in court records, when Mackenzie woke up in the hospital, she broke down crying and told medical staff that the crash was her fault because she had gotten her boyfriend killed. At the time, doctors viewed it as the emotional reaction of someone who had just survived a catastrophic crash. But for investigators, that statement became far more significant once it was placed alongside the other evidence that was beginning to emerge. After multiple surgeries, Mackenzie was eventually released from the hospital and returned home with her family. While investigators began reconstructing the final moments leading up to the crash. While Mackenzie was recovering from the crash, prosecutors started moving in a completely different direction with the investigation. And honestly, it was not looking good for her at all. Police began interviewing friends of both Dominic and Mackenzie. At first, investigators probably expected the usual answers. Stuff like, yeah, they argued a lot. Typical teenage relationship drama. But the more people they talked to, the more investigators started noticing a pretty disturbing pattern. Multiple people said Mackenzie regularly threatened Dominic throughout their on and off relationship. Sometimes it was threats to damage his car. Other times it was demanding that he let her into the house in the middle of the night. And then there were threats that sounded far more serious. According to case records, about 2 weeks before the crash, Dominic actually called his mother to come pick him up because Mackenzie was driving while the two were arguing. And during that argument, she allegedly said, "Dominic, I'm going to crash this car right now." Yeah. On its own, that might sound like something said in anger during a fight. But after a nearly 100-mile-per-hour crash, with no signs of braking, suddenly that statement started feeling very different. At the same time, Mackenzie's behavior after the crash also started turning public opinion against her. While Dominic and Davion's families were still holding funerals, Mackenzie's social media activity left many people disturbed. She posted a tribute to Dominic on his obituary page, and some later reports described the post as disturbing, given the context of the investigation at the time. Then came Halloween. Mackenzie appeared at parties and posted costume photos online, including marijuana-themed outfits and controversial zombie-style corpse makeup. And look, people process trauma in different ways, but to the public at that moment, especially while investigators were considering whether she intentionally drove into that building, those photos made her image look far worse. And by this point, the case was already starting to shift from a teenager caused a deadly crash to, was this actually a murder disguised as an accident? But TikTok wasn't the only thing making people see Mackenzie differently. In one post, she used a caption that said something like, "I'm the girl you'd die for." And yeah, in a normal context, that might have just sounded like an edgy teenage caption. A little cringe maybe, but not exactly the end of the world. The problem was, this was not a normal context. 2 people had just died in a car she was driving. Dominic was her boyfriend. Davion was his best friend, and only weeks after being released from the hospital, Mackenzie was already appearing back on social media, like life was slowly returning to normal. She was even seen attending a concert while still using a wheelchair because of the injuries from the crash. For some people, maybe that was simply her trying to hold on to life after severe trauma. But for the Strongsville community at the time, those images were difficult to accept. Then came posts related to modeling opportunities. According to reports tied to the case, Mackenzie and her mother had conversations online about modeling. Some people in the community found it so inappropriate that they forwarded screenshots and information to police. And while the public was focused on TikTok posts, captions, Halloween costumes, and Mackenzie's very questionable online behavior, investigators were focused on something far more important: the car itself. A full mechanical inspection was performed on the Toyota Camry, and investigators found no mechanical failure that could explain the crash. The brakes weren't defective. The car didn't suddenly accelerate on its own. There was no mysterious malfunction where investigators would shrug and say, "Well, that's convenient." Then investigators downloaded data from the event data recorder, commonly referred to as the vehicle's black box. And that's when the case became extremely difficult to defend. According to investigators, right after Mackenzie turned onto Progress Drive, the accelerator pedal was pushed aggressively to the floor. The car continued accelerating down the straight roadway until it reached nearly 100 miles per hour. No braking. And if the case had previously existed somewhere in the gray area between reckless driving and intentional act, the data from the Camry started pulling it out of that gray area very quickly. The data from the Camry started answering one very important question: did Mackenzie ever try to stop? According to investigators, the answer was no. When first responders found her inside the vehicle, her foot was still positioned near the accelerator area. Data from the event data recorder also showed no indication that she attempted to brake before impact. The Camry traveled the entire length of Progress Drive, a short road inside the industrial district, until it reached the end near a intersection. Right before leaving the roadway, the steering wheel registered a sharp turn, roughly 142 degrees to the right, before correcting back left as the car crossed over the grass and slammed directly into the brick building. And this is where surveillance footage became an incredibly important part of the case. Because before this point, Mackenzie's social media behavior may have disturbed the public. The threats before the crash may have raised suspicions for prosecutors. But the surveillance footage and vehicle data were what started turning those suspicions into a timeline that became very difficult to explain as just an accident. Several businesses in the area captured parts of the Camry's final route that morning. But two specific videos became especially important. The first showed Mackenzie turning onto Progress Drive completely normally. She slowed down to make the turn. She kept the vehicle under control. She even used her turn signal correctly. In other words, just seconds before accelerating, she was still driving like someone who fully understood what she was doing. And that detail immediately stood out to investigators. If the car had already been out of control, the footage didn't show it. If she had been panicking from the very beginning, the footage didn't show that either. What it showed was a completely normal turn, and then acceleration. From that moment on, the question was no longer whether the Camry could have stopped. The question became, why didn't it? That surveillance footage later became one of the most important pieces of the entire case. Because, according to investigators, the way Mackenzie handled the Camry before accelerating did not look like someone panicking or losing control due to intoxication. She made a clean turn, slowed appropriately, used her signal, kept the car steady. Everything during those few seconds looked strangely normal. Then the Camry entered Progress Drive. And almost immediately after that, the speed started climbing rapidly. The second surveillance video showed the car racing down the straight industrial roadway with the accelerator seemingly pinned near the floor. The Camry continued accelerating until the final seconds before impact. According to the vehicle data, right before leaving the roadway, the steering wheel made a sharp turn. The Camry cut across the grassy area past signs and large rocks near the edge of the road, and slammed directly into the corner of the brick building. And honestly, when investigators reconstructed the entire route on a map, the distance was shockingly short, less than a mile. That was all the roadway it took for the Camry to go from a completely normal turn to nearly 100 miles per hour. According to prosecutors, the entire route down Progress Drive convinced them this was not simply a case of losing control at high speed. Then Mackenzie's phone data and GPS history made the case even harder to explain. When investigators analyzed her location history, they discovered she had been near the industrial area on Progress Drive multiple times in the days leading up to the crash. This wasn't a busy area, and it definitely wasn't somewhere teenagers normally hung out late at night, which is pretty strange, especially considering that same road later became the site of a nearly 100-mile-per-hour crash. Prosecutors argued that Mackenzie had spent time scouting the area before the crash. To them, it became part of the argument for premeditation, that she understood exactly how empty the road was, how straight it was, and what could happen if a car was driven at full speed down that stretch in the early morning hours. The defense strongly pushed back against that interpretation, arguing there was no direct evidence proving she had planned the crash ahead of time. According to investigation records, after the crash, Mackenzie allegedly asked police, "Can't you just suspend my license for like 10 years or something?" Yeah, and for many people following the case, that statement sounded like she still didn't fully understand the severity of what had happened on Progress Drive that morning. But for prosecutors, the case went far beyond a tone-deaf comment like, "What if you just take my license away?" Because once they started placing all the evidence side by side, the picture became increasingly difficult to defend. Mackenzie had been near the Progress Drive area before the crash. She had allegedly made threats toward Dominic throughout their on and off relationship. Vehicle data showed the Camry accelerating to nearly 100 miles per hour. There were no signs of braking. And when first responders reached the vehicle, her foot was still positioned near the accelerator area. Any one of those details by itself could maybe be debated. But when combined together, things started looking very, very bad for Mackenzie. According to prosecutors, this was no longer reckless driving. This was an intentional act that caused the deaths of Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan. On November 4th, 2022, Mackenzie Shirilla was arrested.
Where's she? Right back there, pal.
Hi, Mackenzie. Step out for me. I'm Detective Jesus. I'm the one who's been investigating the crash. You're under arrest for aggravated murder ×2, okay? Nobody's gonna ask you any questions. Nobody's gonna bother you. Can I have your key, please?
Could you please be careful taking this one off so it doesn't break the bracelet, please?
You got it. You got it.
Do you want my cuffs?
No.
Thank you.
I'm talking to you.
What is Mackenzie?
Okay, Mackenzie, I'm gonna take your handcuffs off. I need like all the jewelry and everything to come off, okay?
I can't wear any of it.
No, I need you to take it off while you're in the jail right now.
I can't wear these.
Now, unfortunately, everything's gonna have to come off right now once we know when the detective comes back and we know for sure what's going on. Everything's gonna be bagged up here. It's not going anywhere.
Sorry, this is just like one of those which is really hard to get off.
That's fine. Take your time.
What are the green, are those extensions, clips? You're gonna need to take those out.
I can't take them out. They're like in my, they're like in.
Okay.
Unless you have pliers, we can get them out.
What about that tie?
I'm gonna hold off and see what ends up. Because it's kind of weird. I don't know. Corvatus is back there. All right, Mackenzie, just hang out up against that wall to your right.
According to court records, she faced a total of 18 charges, including 2 counts of aggravated murder, 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, and 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, all directly connected to the deaths of Dominic Russo and Devian Flanagan in the July 31, 2022 crash. In addition, she also faced 1 count of drug trafficking, 1 count of drug possession related to the psilocybin mushrooms found inside the vehicle, and 1 count of possession of criminal tools after police discovered a digital scale inside the Camry. Then investigators uncovered another incident that had happened just weeks earlier. Mackenzie was accused in connection with a break-in and vandalism at Columbia Church of God in Columbia Station on July 19, 2022. Those charges included breaking and entering, vandalism, and desecration. Blood tests performed at the hospital showed THC in Mackenzie's system at the time of the crash, consistent with marijuana use earlier that night. However, while mushrooms were found inside the car, toxicology results did not show psilocybin in her bloodstream. Put simply, prosecutors did not view this as a stupid early morning crash caused by a reckless teenager. They viewed it as a criminal case, and Mackenzie, who had only survived the crash a few months earlier, was now facing the possibility of spending most of her life behind bars. Mackenzie's bond was set at $500,000, but she was denied release. During pretrial proceedings, prosecutors offered a plea deal. Mackenzie rejected it. Her attorneys stated they were fully prepared to take the case to trial. And just like that, instead of ending quietly through a plea agreement, the case was headed into a courtroom, where every final second on Progress Drive would be dissected in front of the public.
That's correct, Your Honor. I went on Monday and discussed this at great length with Mackenzie. The week before that, with her parents present, talked with her today, and it's her desire that she does not want to enter a plea to 2 counts of murder.
And Mackenzie, are you satisfied with the lawyer so far? You can sit. Yes, Your Honor.
As the case moved closer to trial, Mackenzie made a pretty risky decision. She waived her right to a jury trial. Instead of letting 12 ordinary citizens decide her fate, Mackenzie chose a bench trial, meaning the entire case would be decided by a single judge. And honestly, that was a dangerous choice in a case like this, because this wasn't the kind of case centered around the question. Was she driving the car? Everybody already knew Mackenzie was behind the wheel. The real question was the crash reckless stupidity or an intentional act? And prosecutors believed they had enough evidence to prove the second one. Due to the severity of the case, prosecutors also requested that Mackenzie be tried as an adult, even though she was only 17 years old at the time of the crash. When the trial began, prosecutors focused heavily on building a very specific pattern of behavior involving Mackenzie and Dominic's relationship. They talked about everything that had happened leading up to the crash, the escalating arguments, the threats, the times she showed up outside Dominic's house in the middle of the night, the moments she pressured him to let her inside or face the consequences. According to prosecutors, All of it showed how Mackenzie reacted whenever she didn't get what she wanted.
But I forgot. You can never keep your word because you are a little f***ing weak bitch.
You broke up with me earlier. You really broke up with me earlier.
This is your last chance to open the door, or you are not coming out of this house all night because I will not leave.
You literally broke up with me earlier. Like what is the point you're trying to, like, you broke up with me, like, earlier. Like, what point
No,
are you trying to say?
I didn't.
Yes, you did. You said we're not together. You really said that shit. Like, you really broke up with me earlier. Like, what are you trying to make? Like, why would I just let you in my house if you break up with me and you're threatening to break my shit? Like, you're threatening to key my car, threatening to break the doors. Like,
Do not let me in the house.
you're gonna key my car if I don't let
You
you.
don't let me in the house. Yeah. Dom, if you do not open, like, you think I'm joking. You think I'm joking. Like, I'm dead ass.
What? What are you dead ass about?
Okay, I'm gonna give you one last chance to open the door.
Kenzie, I can't open the door. I can't sit here and fight. We gotta go to dinner to fucking see my grandparents. Like, I can't sit.
Don't open the door. I'm gonna let you know that right now.
And then what? What would happen? What are you trying to say?
You're not coming to dinner. You're not going to dinner.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
You know it. That's exactly what I mean. You don't know exactly what I mean. You're gonna come open this door right now, or there's gonna be a serious problem.
I can't. No, like, you can't keep making all these threats. Like, I can't open the door.
Out of a place that you say is my home.
Kenzie, I didn't kick you out. You took all your shit and dipped and said we were done. Like,
I did not say we are done. Dom? Okay, ready? I'm gonna count to 10. The door's gonna open, okay? You're gonna open the door and stop hiding behind the door like a little fucking bitch. If you hang up on me, we're done. I'm leaving.
Kenzie, there's nothing I could do. Like, I can't. I'm not.
There is. Stop being a little bitch.
I can't let you in my house with how you're acting. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, there's no way. There's no way I should. Like,
Break the handle off.
huh?
I'm just gonna break the handle off. It's already moving.
You can break the lock. Like, you're really gonna break into my house?
Yes, I will. I will break into my house. You're right. I will break into it.
It's not your house. It's my house.
It is. Dom, now open the door. Now open the door. You have 30 seconds left on the phone call to open the door. We're done.
According to prosecutors, those threats were not just normal teenage arguments. In court, prosecutors presented audio recordings and testimony describing how Mackenzie would show up outside Dominic's house, banging on the door in the middle of the night and demanding that he let her inside. At one point, she allegedly threatened to break the door handle if Dominic kept the door locked, and then began counting down second by second like the situation was about to spiral completely out of control. And that was only one part of the pattern prosecutors wanted the judge to see, because, according to case records, Mackenzie had repeatedly talked crashing a car while Dominic was inside it. For prosecutors, those threats became extremely important after the crash on Progress Drive, especially when data from the Camry showed the vehicle accelerating continuously to nearly 100 miles per hour without any sign of braking. Prosecutors also spent significant time focusing on Mackenzie's behavior after the crash. TikTok videos, concert appearances, Halloween costumes, posts related to modeling jobs. And honestly, this part made the case extremely messy. And look, nobody gets convicted just for posting on TikTok. But prosecutors argued that those actions reflected a lack of remorse following the deaths of Dominic and Davion, especially since they happened only weeks after the crash. Meanwhile, accident reconstruction experts testified that there was no mechanical failure, no brake malfunction, and that the Camry remained under control right up until the moment of impact.
That he observed at that time the defendant striking Dominic Russo with both hands, and that he overheard her make a statement an admissible statement, and she said, "Dominic, I'm going to crash this car." We find that it is especially and important to her state of mind just 2 weeks later when she used a car to kill Dominic Russo.
Prosecutors believed this was not an accident. According to them, Kenzie intentionally drove the Camry down Progress Drive at full speed, while Davion, who had simply asked for a ride home after the party, became an unintended victim in the entire situation. The defense told a completely different story. Mackenzie's attorneys argued that this was a tragic crash caused by reckless driving, not murder. They said Mackenzie had no memory of what happened in the final seconds before impact, and they focused heavily on the 142-degree steering input recorded right before the crash.
How can you come to any conclusion other than, if anything, she's reckless? Is it just kids being kids? Is it Dominic grabbing the steering wheel? Is it Mackenzie maybe speeding and say, "Oh my God, park out, it's late, I'm coming up to this, I better do something," and she goes like that to avoid an accident, not acting purposely, but in fact trying to avoid it? Is it sudden acceleration, panic? Those are all possibilities.
The defense raised one major question: who actually turned the steering wheel? Did Mackenzie try to avoid something in the road? Could one of the passengers have grabbed the wheel? Or in the final moments, was she actually trying to regain control of the car? Honestly, this was the point where the case became deeply divided, because the defense never denied that Mackenzie was driving recklessly. What they denied was intent. But then prosecutors returned to the one thing that had haunted the entire trial from the very beginning: the surveillance footage.
The video clearly shows the purpose and intent of the defendant. She chose a course of death and destruction that day. She morphs from a responsible driver to literal hell on wheels. Her actions were controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. This was not reckless driving. This was murder.
At sentencing, prosecutors once again returned to the same issue that had followed the entire case from the beginning: Mackenzie's behavior after the crash. According to prosecutors, all of it showed what they believed was an almost complete lack of genuine remorse. Then it was the victim's family's turn to address the court. Davion Flanagan's mother was the first to step forward. She spoke about her son, a young man who had grown up in foster care before finally finding a family. A kid who loved football, wanted to become a barber, and had simply asked for a ride home after a party.
Your Honor, my name is Jamie Flanagan. I am the mother of the victim, Davion Flanagan. I want to share a small part of what we lost on 7/31/2022. My son Davion is and always will be so much more than part of. He was precious. He was an amazing soul with a heart of gold. He gave to the world what he wanted most in his own life: love. The kind of love that would rescue a friend in the middle of the night, no questions asked. The kind that would protect others and honor them. He made friends easily with his infectious smile. He was a gifted athlete. He had plans to go to barber school and open his own shop. My son did not have a clique of friends, but instead was a friend to all. He would go out of his way to show love and kindness to others, including those that were often cast aside by society, the less fortunate, the developmentally challenged, the hurting, and the unvalued. Davion made sure that everyone that crossed his path knew that he truly saw them, that he valued them, and that they were worth his time. Davion and my kids have had more than their fair share of heartbreak, of hardship, and of loss. Davion was adopted with his sisters from foster care. They are biological siblings. We are honored to be chosen or to have been chosen to be their parents. Their forever family. I am devastated by the loss of Davion. The world lost a truly special man. My girls lost their best friend, their protector, the one and only trusted family that has been by their side from day one. This alone, or he alone, understands the pain and loss that they have gone through and was always there for them. This fact alone breaks my heart for my girls, for my family. So many dreams shattered, a future stolen. We will never get to see the amazing man that he was surely to become. His life was precious. Like I said, he was so much more than cargo. I pray daily for strength and perseverance for myself and for my family. I also pray that Mackenzie will find true remorse in her heart and true repentance. We thank all of those that worked so hard to help us bring justice for our son. We are forever thankful. Davion, we miss you terribly, but as Christians we pray with hope. We will make sure your memory lives on, and we ache for the day that we are united again in eternity.
Hello, could you start with your name?
Hi, Your Honor. My name is Divine Flanagan. Davion was my older brother. The passing of Davion Markel Flanagan has been very difficult for me. We have gone through everything together since day one. Davion was a big brother to me and my younger brother, Leah. We all got adopted together in 2012. After Davion passed away, a lot of trauma and past pain has came into my life, causing it to be difficult to heal from this trauma or this traumatic event. Davion was not just a big brother to me, but a role model in many ways. He was the person I trusted the most because he made me feel safe. He taught me the importance of cherishing each moment and enjoying life. The memories we have are strong, but leaving him has shown me the value of life. Just how God works in ways you can't understand, but it's worth it in the end. I don't want this pain for anyone else. I don't want people to have to go through this. As an 8-year-old, I hate the fact that he is gone because someone decided to take his life. Now that Davion is gone, I feel stuck. I feel as if I can't move forward. I feel lost. He was the one who picked me up when I fell. He was my best friend and the only person that has stayed with me since I was born. I would like you to give Mackenzie the longest possible sentence. I've known her for about 3 years, and actually, she's always taken the easy way out. She will be eligible for parole, while my brother will be gone forever. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Then it was Dominic Russo's mother's turn. She spoke about Dominic the way a mother speaks about a son she believed still had his entire life ahead of him.
I'm Christine Russo. I'm Dominic's mother. No one wanted this to be a murder or to punish Mackenzie Shirilla for this accident. But this was not a car accident. The evidence and science proved that Mackenzie Shirilla murdered my son, Dominic, as well as Davion. There's no fix put in this case, as the Shirillas would like to proclaim. I want to thank Strongsville Police Department and the state of Ohio for seeking the truth behind this crash. Thanks to them, we all know what happened in that car that day. What we don't know is why. I wish I could change this every day. I lost 3 children in that crash. Not a minute goes by each day that I don't think about my son, as well as Davion. My heart is forever broken. The cries heard from the Shirilla family and friends after the verdict are nothing more than a lack of remorse. Mackenzie Shirilla had a choice. Dom and Davion did not. We are all left here to mourn. But what Dominic and Davion lost can never be remedied in any way or by any particular sentence. July 31st, 2022, I called Mackenzie's mother, hysterical with the loss of my son and Davion. I knew Mackenzie was in the hospital, and the first statement said to me was, "Oh, please don't listen to what everyone's saying on Facebook." Yeah, my son is dead, his friend is dead, and I'm checking on yours. Yet social media is what's important. Social media has made a game out of the life of Mackenzie and is making a game out of this heart-wrenching tragedy. No one can imagine the pain of losing a child unless they have lost one themselves. The pain is forevermore. Time does not heal this wound. Mackenzie, going to prison because you did this. Be thankful that you're still alive and have a future, whatever that may be. Dom and Davion were robbed of their futures, their hopes, and their dreams. Mackenzie showed no mercy on Dominic, nor did she on Davion. Only God at this time can have mercy on her soul. Thank you.
Then it was Mackenzie's mother's turn to speak. And that was the moment this case became far more emotionally complicated. Because no matter how the public viewed Mackenzie, to her, that was still her daughter.
My name is Natalie Sharilla. I just want to say, am I allowed to address them at all? Sure. I just want to say to the families that I'm broken, sad, and lost, and my heart hurts for everyone, okay? Davion was her new friend, and Dom was the love of her life, and he was part of our family, okay? I'm just so sorry that this happened, and we're heartbroken, okay? And then, Your Honor, this was a terrible, tragic nightmare accident to have happened that she has no memory of, and she will never emotionally or physically recover from it. She almost died too, and we're asking that you please not run the sentence as consecutive. He was family, and we all loved each other. That morning of the accident, she called. I got a phone call that there was a car accident. Okay, so we went to the hospital, and I didn't even know who was in the car. The names had not been confirmed yet, and I'm going to cry because I missed Dom so much. We loved him so much. So I called Dom, like over and over again, praying that he was going to answer the phone, and he didn't answer the phone. So then I tried to call his mom, and she didn't answer the phone either. And I still didn't know who was in the car. I didn't even know if she was alive. I didn't know what was happening. So then we were in the waiting room, and then his mom she did call me, so I answered the phone, and I was like, oh my God, like, I don't even know who was in the car, like, what's happening, was that Dom? And she said, what do you mean, my son is dead? And I was like, I'm so sorry. And then she said something like, and now I have to wait until your kid's out of the hospital, and then I didn't hear the rest. I was like, we loved him so much, and I hung up the phone. I did not talk about social media. I didn't even know what was going on yet, okay? So then, that was it. So in the hospital, that Vitality post, I commented on that because somebody had called her a murderer, okay? And she's not a murderer, so she didn't even have her phone at that point because the police had still had it, okay? So I jumped on, and I was like, you know, she's not a murderer. She's more sad than most of these people commenting. She's been trying to get in touch with you. I mean, at that point, it was just an accident. So I commented on her behalf, not because of the modeling opportunity. Who cares about that? I don't want them to refer to her as a murderer, okay? And I don't even know how that comment had got on the phone because the police still had her device, and she could not access her phone or social media. That's why I did it. And I had called them asking if they could shut down social media because people were calling her a murderer and making death threats and organizing groups to, take her out when she got out of the hospital and stuff. So I didn't even want her phone. I don't care about her phone. I don't care about social media. I just wanted them to stop calling her a murderer so that when she did come to, and she did come out of surgery, multiple surgeries, that she wouldn't see all these people calling her a murderer because she would never, ever, ever murder the love of her life. Okay? For Halloween, for 3 months after the accident, she would only wear his clothes. She would only eat the snacks he ate. She would only listen to the music he wrote, okay? So she was crying for 3 months. So her friends asked if she wanted to go out trick-or-treating or Halloween, and it was at OU. And she didn't even want to go. She said, I don't know, should I go? She couldn't even walk yet, barely. So I told her, I said, baby, please go. It's Halloween. You've been laying for 3 months crying, only listening to his music. Please go have just a moment of fun. A moment of fun. So we told her to go. My husband drove her. I brought her back home. She just needed a second of fun from losing her whole world. Her whole world. So that was us. We told her to go. And that concert she went to with Dom's cousin, Abby, they picked her up. They brought her there. That was Dom, Mackenzie and Dom and Abby all decided to go to this concert together while they were in the hospital. She's like devastated and tragic. He was the air that she breathes, okay? And they went with his cousin. We spent all kinds of time with him after the accident. What was the other thing?
I'm hearing an awful lot about your daughter. I'm not hearing very much about her too, Delvi.
Dominic, okay? I'm asking you for a leniency because this was a tragic accident that she does not remember. And Davion, he's a new friend. And I'm so sorry.
Does that mean his life is worthless?
No. God, no, not at all. They all loved each other. They all spent every day together. I understand what it looks like. I'm saying that it was a tragic accident. She would never.
Well, we're going to have to disagree on that.
I understand.
Right. And I respect your position.
I understand. But anyway, that's it. I just wanted to address those. We told her to go to those things, and then she did go with Dom's family. So look at that. Don't look at it with look on that with different eyes if you can, please.
Those things are not relevant.
Not at all. But she's a good. If you would have a moment, all you would need is 5 minutes of a conversation to have with her to learn who she is. Just that you would just need 5 minutes to learn who she is and what she's capable of not doing and doing, and you would see for yourself. That's all. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I love you.
And finally, Mackenzie Shirilla stood up and spoke for herself in court. After months of investigation, weeks of courtroom arguments, and countless headlines across America, this was the first time people truly heard her speak directly about what had happened. Mackenzie said she wished she could trade places with Dominic and Davion.
Mackenzie, you don't have to speak if you don't want to. It's up to you.
I would love to.
Okay.
You're going to stand up.
You can sit if it's more comfortable. Okay. It's better for you.
The families of Dom and Davion, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davion. We were all friends and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take all your pain away, and I'm so sorry. And to my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys give. Thank you for fighting with me. I love you all so much. All right, I'm done. Thank you.
With the guilty verdicts now delivered, Mackenzie was suddenly facing something she probably never imagined just a year earlier. A life sentence in prison.
Today is the sentencing of the defendant for the purposeful and intentional murders of Davion Flanagan and Dominic Rousseau. And in a way, it's the second time their families are gathered again to grieve. It's also a day when Mackenzie's family will grieve for the future of their daughter. All three of these families and the friends of these families are suffering, and all of their lives have been irrevocably changed because of the actions of the defendant. The unintended and collateral consequences of a selfish, intentional, and cruel decision by Mackenzie will ripple forever in time. It's literally changed history because it's ended 2 lives. 2 young men are dead. Their deaths were horrible, terrifying, and tragic. I will say again, if any reasonable person reviews Exhibit 802, there can be no doubt in your mind what happened this night. There can be no doubt of the absolute terror of the 2 people in that car. The defendant controlled all the events. She chose the day. Specifically, she chose a date just before her 18th birthday. She chose to drive the car, the time to drive the car. She chose an obscure, previously scouted route through an industrial parkway. She chose the target to hit and the victims. She chose the means and the method to follow through. And she planned and purposefully executed the events of July 31st, 2022. The review of the evidence supports the factual findings, the forensic testimony, the testimony of the first responders, the testimony of the emergency room doctors who treated the defendant, the testimony of the coroner's medical examiner, the testimony of those who knew the victims and the defendant, and the testimony of the BMV official who provided evidence that not only did the defendant deny any medical condition when applying for her license, which her mother co-signed and attested to, but also that just after the accident, Mackenzie renewed her driver's license and again denied any medical condition. In fact, the defendant was so concerned about driving that, as the state mentioned, during the investigation, she asked if they could just suspend her license for 10 years. It is hard to fathom how a person could be concerned about their driving privileges, having just been responsible for the deaths of 2 people. There was no medical condition that caused this as an accident. There was no mechanical failure of the car. The record is clear on the facts and the evidence. Her mother's uncorroborated statements without any medical testimony or records is not persuasive. It is also important to remember that even if Mackenzie intended to also die in this crash, that is irrelevant. A failed suicide attempt is not a defense to murder. And even in a murder-suicide attempt, when the perpetrator executing the plan survives, the other death or deaths are still murder. There's only one person who's responsible for the pain of everyone in this room, and that person is you, Mackenzie. Nobody else is responsible. This isn't the fault of Dominic's family, or Davion's family, or your family. And I know that each of you have asked your questions to yourselves, what if? What if I had done this or that? The truth of it is, none of us can control the intentions of another. And when there is a purposeful intent to harm or kill someone, it is the perpetrator alone who bears the responsibility for the choice and the consequences and the harm that follows. The difficulty for sentencing today, honestly, is whether or not I believe you should get consecutive sentences. I'm troubled that should I give you a concurrent sentence, that people will believe that somehow I'm being disrespectful to one of the victims. And on the other hand, I have to weigh the punishment. There's a very good likelihood, Mackenzie, that you will spend the rest of your life in prison. That won't be up to me. That will be up to the parole board, and that will be up to you to a great extent.
Under Ohio law, each murder conviction carries a sentence ranging from 15 years to life before becoming eligible for parole. But there was still one major decision left in the judge's hands. Would those sentences run consecutively or concurrently? If they were consecutive, Mackenzie could spend most of her life in prison. At sentencing, the judge acknowledged that she understood the pain and anger felt by Dominic and Davion's families, people who wanted the harshest punishment possible. But she also said the role of the court was not only to punish, it was also to consider the full circumstances of the case and the defendant's age at the time of the crash. In the end, the judge sentenced Mackenzie Shirilla to 2 concurrent sentences of 15 years to life for the deaths of Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan. In other words, Mackenzie would become eligible for parole after 15 years. And almost immediately, the controversy exploded again. For some people, the sentence represented justice. For others, it still wasn't enough for the 2 lives lost on Progress Drive that morning. Because the sentences were ordered to run concurrently, Mackenzie will become eligible for parole after 15 years. And almost immediately, the internet split into 2 sides again. Supporters of Mackenzie argued that she had been turned into, the villain very early on, especially after TikTok videos and party photos spread across social media. According to them, those posts may have been insensitive, but they did not prove murder. Some people even believed the crash could have been caused by pedal misapplication. The kind of panic situation where someone accidentally presses the accelerator instead of the brake. Others questioned whether the Camry could have suffered a technical malfunction that the data simply failed to capture. Basically, people defending Mackenzie argued that the prosecution's case relied too heavily on character evidence. TikTok posts, Halloween photos, relationship drama, and the internet image of her as the bad girlfriend. Not direct evidence proving she consciously decided, "I'm going to drive this car into that building," but most of the public sided with prosecutors, because for them, the Camry's data, the surveillance footage, the previous threats, and the complete absence of braking created a story that was simply too difficult to ignore. And after the trial, prosecutors spoke very directly about that.
The intent was obvious upon seeing that video that there was only one goal, and the computer demonstrated that there was no attempt to slow down or stop, that it was full speed into a building, and tragically it cost 2 people their lives.
After sentencing, most of Dominic and Davion's family members said they were disappointed with the decision to let the sentences run concurrently. For them, 2 young men had lost their lives, and that should have meant Mackenzie would never be free again. They believed 15 years before parole eligibility was not enough. And honestly, a lot of people following the case felt the same way, because no matter how you look at this case, the final result remains the same. 2 families lost their sons in just a few seconds on Progress Drive. But then Frank Russo, Dominic's father, said something that surprised a lot of people. While he said his family had been completely shattered by Dominic's death, he also said he did not want Mackenzie to die in prison. He hoped that one day she could eventually be released, as long as she truly understood what she had done. And honestly, that may have been the most human moment in the entire case. Because after all the courtroom arguments, TikTok drama, and internet debates, there was still a father who had just lost his son choosing to speak about forgiveness. He stated, "This is terrible for everybody. Yes, I lost my son, and it's harder for our family. But I don't want the rest of her life destroyed too. That won't make me feel any better." Then in October 2024, the case suddenly returned to the headlines again. Mackenzie Shirilla's attorneys filed for post-conviction relief, asking the court to overturn the murder convictions and reopen the case from the beginning. This time, the defense introduced a completely new theory. They argued that Mackenzie may have blacked out because of a medical issue right before the crash. In other words, she may have lost consciousness during the final seconds on Progress Drive rather than intentionally driving into the building. And honestly, if that argument had been accepted, the entire case could have changed completely. But then the story took a turn that almost feels impossible to believe. Under Ohio law, the defense had exactly 365 days to file the motion after the official trial transcript was entered into the record. Deadline, October 23, 2024. The motion was filed October 24, 2024. Exactly 1 day late. Yeah, according to later court filings, the legal team miscalculated the deadline because of confusion involving the 2024 leap year and February 29. A nationally controversial murder case, and the biggest opportunity to overturn the conviction collapsed because of a date calculation error. By May 2025, the judge officially rejected the motion as untimely. And most recently, in March 2026, Ohio's 8th District Court of Appeals formally upheld that decision. According to the court's ruling, once the legal deadline had been missed, the court simply no longer had jurisdiction to even review the substance of the filing. In other words, they never even reached the stage of deciding whether Mackenzie's blackout theory was credible or not, simply because it was filed too late. By one day. And honestly, that may be one of the strangest parts of this entire case. A murder case debated across America for years, ultimately revolving around a missed deadline. At least for now, most of Mackenzie Shirilla's major appeal options appear to be slowly running out, and the conviction tied to the crash on Progress Drive remains in place. And at least for the time being, Mackenzie Shirilla continues serving her sentence at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. And after a long period of silence, Mackenzie Shirilla's parents finally spoke out.
I struggled with this because how can I feel bad that these two boys died and feel grief with these families and then be absolutely overjoyed that my kid is alive? Show me one piece of evidence, one, that says she did this on purpose. Show it to me. Here it is. That's it. Then she's right where she belongs and she's guilty of it. But there isn't any. There's no evidence what was going on in that car other than the information they gleaned from the black box information.
And these poor families think she did it intentionally and she didn't. And and they don't know. There's information they didn't see. There's information they didn't have. There's information we didn't see or have.
Should she be in prison for murder?
No, absolutely not.
Should she be in prison for aggravated vehicular homicide?
I don't even know
I
about that aggravated part.
I don't know about the aggravated part because I don't think you can still say why was going on in the car. Should she have been charged with reckless vehicular homicide, 2 counts?
I don't even,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
if it was medical.
What kind of hopes, what kind of expectations do you have for Mackenzie's future?
That the truth will set her free. That's what I need to have happen. The truth, that there was no intent, that part, the truth will set her free.
Then in May 2026, the case exploded all over again. This time because People magazine exclusively released a series of jail calls between Mackenzie Shirilla and her mother, Natalie Shirilla. And honestly, the internet exploded. The prison calls immediately spread across TikTok, YouTube, and true crime forums within just a few hours. Because to many people following the case, those recordings revealed a version of Mackenzie that felt completely different from the image she had presented in court. Calm, detached, and at many points, barely mentioning Dominic or Davion at all. Instead, most of the conversations focused on the case, the media, the appeals process, and how the public viewed her after the trial.
How do you think I did, okay?
Yeah, that prosecutor was pissing me off though. I don't know what
I know, I'm like...
I was getting so pissed
what?
off. Like I wanted to get up and be like, shut the fuck up and tell him to sit so bad. He was pissing me off. He was so
I was ready
rude.
for anything. We got nothing to hide. You could ask me anything you want.
All I've been eating is peanut butter bread and cookies.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see how that you please have somebody get that to work for you.
I know I'm going to. This is just irritating as
Yeah. Yep.
I hate how I don't like how I can't come out of my room. Why the fuck am I on a 7-day hold? That just pisses me off.
It's just part of the procedure. There's nothing you can do about that.
There's a third victim and it's me, and I
Exactly.
lost the love of my life and a good friend, and now I have to just deal with this grief the rest of my life and deal with being scared to drive and stuff. That's just
I know. I know, honey. There's nothing I can do about that. So
Can you just pay my bond and get me out of here, please? Go to a bail bondsman and see if they can do the 10%. God, why aren't you listening? I'm gonna hang up.
I am listening. Just say to somebody
I don't
when you were
care.
talking. I don't know how much an appeal is. Okay, so can we just wait until Monday? Okay.
Yeah, let's just wait until Monday when I can just they're probably gonna take my bond away on Monday.
That's what I mean. So let's just wait.
What do you mean? That's what you mean. They're probably gonna say there's no more bond on Monday.
No, we don't know if that's true or not. I know the full situation. You're just gonna have to wait.
This is just wrong. What the fuck they're doing?
I know it
It's
is.
so wrong, and they're just trying
I
to
know.
juice it.
I know.
Yes, I'm
I
getting
know.
very irritated. Like, and I need to get the fuck out of jail because they're just trying to fuck me over bad as fuck.
In the jail calls released by People, Mackenzie also spoke quite a bit about her health. She told her mother that her condition had worsened since entering prison, and that the illnesses and symptoms she was dealing with had become more serious than anything she had ever faced before.
Diagnosed. Nobody ever told me that anything about driving.
Put that on the license. Exactly. No.
That was
and
never said. Ever.
Nope. And if we do have to, then we will.
Yes, I don't care. Like, why would we lie and just not do that? If I knew that could affect my driving, I probably would never drive. Like,
well, people are allowed to drive with that, so don't say that.
And ever since I got in here, it's been bad again. Like, I don't know what it is. Like I blacked out the other day, and like, it was so weird. It was like not normal. Like, it wasn't like bad how it usually is, but it was also like not like good. I don't know how to explain it. It was like the first time I ever had a blackout like that. Like, it was like weird as fuck. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, just make sure you're eating. Okay, when you get your if you can do your commissary, make sure you get some chips.
A case that began as a fatal crash involving 3 young people after a night of partying slowly turned into one of the most controversial murder cases in America in recent years. Right now, a documentary about the case titled The Crash has just been released on Netflix. And recently, Dominic Russo's sister Christine gave an exclusive interview where she condemned Mackenzie as a psychopath for continuing to file appeals from prison while still refusing to admit that the crash was intentional. That interview has pushed the case back into the national spotlight once again and reignited the same debate that has followed this story from the very beginning. Even now, people still argue over what truly happened on Progress Drive that morning. Was it an intentional act? A moment of total loss of control at high speed? Or a decision that lasted only a few seconds, but was enough to destroy the lives of almost everyone connected to it? But what do you think? Do you believe this was reckless driving or murder? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next true crime documentary. My name is Luca. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, stay safe out there.